Okay, it is time for Street Talk. Are you ready? Are you ready, Gemma, to talk about this week's epic Coronation Street? I mean,
I watched it.
You did watch it. We said that when we only gave a bang to Monday's episode on the shorts, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, you're right. You banged Wednesday's episode,
didn't
you?
On Wednesday.
I thought they were all good. I mean, the two bog standards that I gave were high class. Japanese bogs. I'm going to say.
Yeah, really high class. Really good for you.
I haven't quite settled on a score yet, so I'm going to have to see. We are going to start off, of course, with the Daisy story. Oh, Daisy and Ryan storyline. I'm calling this one Acid Ryan. I've just got to get the pronunciation of this right. I've got to sound partly like Ryan and partly like Rain.
Go on then, do it.
Acid Ryan.
Oh, I
That's
didn't
a
know what you
Ryan
said.
storyline,
It sounded like the same thing twice.
I was thinking ages for that. That'll do. Then we've got a bit of the explicit consent warning story, the Amy and Aaron stuff. We've got a little bit of Lord of the Underworld as well. Brian's storyline, Gemma.
Yeah.
I haven't told you this one. Dimbo Italiano. Hey, Dimbo Italiano.
Yeah.
Bloody idiot. What's that going on there? Hey, Gemma.
Michael's holding. No.
It's not. It's still completely appropriate to call this episode "Paul My Finger." I'm sorry, it is. You haven't been diagnosed with anything yet, I tell you. We also.
It's not insensitive. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's not insensitive yet. It's fine to go. Peter Rash will.
All right, get on with it.
But then we have got the Marco YOLO story, which made a triumphant return on Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. What are you up to on Pinterest?
Just entertaining myself while you laugh.
Am I not entertaining enough for you, my darling?
You know what's going on, so.
Okay, right. We are going to do the Acid Ryan storyline to begin with.
I think I only cramp your style if I pay too much attention.
No, you got to listen in.
I am. Can you give me a break, please?
Okay. Right. The big old wedding episode. The wedding that never was on Monday. I remember we sat down to watch Monday's episode. So this is going to be good. I know this is going to be a great episode. I knew some spoilers, but I was still ready to be entertained by it. What are they going to throw at us? And then they start off with that weird ass dream sequence.
I mean,
what was that?
Right. Okay.
Do not want.
I appreciated what they were doing with it, and I know that it worked with some people enjoyed it, and I did like to see what Daisy's hair should have looked like because. You got to see what she was hoping to go for with Maria's doing her hair, so she had like beautiful diamantes scattered throughout, like beautiful drops of crystalline rain, and her nice little pearly headband. So getting to see that was nice.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the reason that they didn't have Maria do her hair like that is so that she would be free to, have her hair out of her face, so she could be a paramedic. But I didn't.
They didn't need that. They did.
They got the promo photos out of it because all the photos that we had, I think, of Daisy and Daniel were of that.
Yeah, but they did loads of promo shoot for this with the main characters. But I just thought, what's that?
What were we supposed to think it was? Was it her dreaming and imagining something bad happening? Or
because
was it a premonition?
It was them kind of la-di-daring outside the Rovers, her and Daniel at the beginning, wasn't it? It was because Christina had cursed the wedding last week, which was still kind of fun.
She didn't curse the wedding. She said the wedding was cursed.
Yes, that's right. Sorry. And then the cloud. Then they kind of look up to the sky, and the sky goes all weird, doesn't it? It's like blue skies, and then it's like, ooh, fast forward. No, now it's dark and grey.
I'll tell you. I know what it reminded me of. That Zelda game, Majora's Mask, where the asteroid's coming for you and everything goes like night.
Yes, yeah. 1 day remaining.
And the asteroid was Justin.
Yeah, Justin turns up in the car, doesn't he, in the dream sequence to pick Daisy up.
The chauffeur.
Yeah, and then he kind of swivels. It was kind of done in a kind of weird sort of creepy, dreamy nightmare man kind of way. It was kind of it wasn't badly done.
Can
particularly.
I
just didn't think it needed it.
It was well done.
I sometimes like that thing. I liked it with some of the Jeff dreams. I mean, Stephen Reed's freaky LSD weird trippy sequence a couple of weeks ago. No.
That was you seeing it through his perspective.
It's just more experimental
There's
editing
always the
stuff.
argument that dream sequences are a cheap way to create tension and drama and...
This was just a way of her showing, I've got my best day of my life coming up, but I'm a bit worried that things are going to go wrong. They didn't need it. They really didn't need it.
They did it, and
they did it.
We have to deal with it.
Yes,
it was fine. It was fine for whatever. It wasn't the best way to start the week from our perspective.
No, I don't know.
We're not big on dreams or montage, like song.
No,
but we'll say
what
Monday's episode written
by Ian Kershaw.
Who picked a banging set of tunes.
He did,
including Spice Girls.
There was Wannabe. Thank you very much.
Oh gosh, what was that? There was some, like, you know, orchestral arrangements. Goo Goo Dolls, that was one. I was going to write a list down, but
I very much enjoyed the rest of the episode.
Daisy and Ian have great taste in music.
I enjoyed the rest of the episode. I could have just done without that, so I'm going to move on. And we get to see Upstairs in the Rovers, didn't we? Upstairs in the... I know. Upstairs in the Rovers for the first time. Daisy's getting ready there. She's in the bathroom. And I was watching this thinking... Why are they doing this? Why are they showing up here? Why can't they just show her getting ready, in the back room?
Normally she'd be sitting at the table looking at a mirror.
Yeah, a little
sitting down.
Flippy, one of those girls' mirrors, the mirror that you've got in your handbags. But no, there was in a proper lovely bathroom there. And I was thinking, why are they doing that? Even though I knew what was going to happen, even though I knew that there was an acid attack, I didn't put two and two together to think, there's a shower there, that's where you get water from.
No, I didn't even, honestly, before the episode, I was like, I thought that if you put water onto acid, it makes it worse.
No, apparently not. Constant stream of cold water is what you need. That's what I've been learning from Ryan Proscott and Charlie Jordan this week. She could have just, stuck him under the pumps, though, couldn't she? She didn't have to move him all the way upstairs.
There's been lots of arguments.
Get some Heineken Zero over his face.
Should she have done? But in the show, they literally say you did the right thing. So
they're dramatic. So yeah, she's getting herself ready. She's just kind of feeling a bit, what's the word when you think that something bad's going to happen?
Anxious.
Yeah. Premonitiousness about the wedding.
She's feeling promiscuous about her wedding.
And she's right to, because she's got a bloodshot eye. The car's been nicked or something.
That was very musical, the way you just said that.
Bloodshot eye. The car's been nicked, although she doesn't know this. And then
this is why Ryan gets involved.
Yes. So meanwhile,
my car before the wedding broke down.
Yes, this is what you and Daisy's wedding have in common. Luckily, it stopped there.
There were no more problems apart from it rained, and the only problem with it raining was that all day long people going, "Oh, it's such a shame it's raining." It's like, actually, I think rain is lucky. And I love the rain, so I don't care.
12 and a half years later.
Still going.
Oh my gosh, I'd lost my wedding ring this week. That was our wedding disaster, because I just kind of sidetracked with it.
You better hurry up and say it quickly.
Yes, yesterday, at like 8:30, I was sitting in my classroom talking to my student, and I was like, I haven't got my wedding ring on. I just noticed, and I'd been up since like 4 o'clock in the morning or so this like 4 hours later. I was like, where is my wedding ring? And you sometimes fiddle with your rings and stuff, don't you? I was like, sometimes I take it off and like spin it on the table. I don't think I've done that today.
Oh, Michael.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like panicking, and this was just before the children were about to come into school. And I was running around the school, looking around, retracing my steps on the floor, on the tables, on the desk, by the computer. No, nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody look after my children for me. I need to phone up Gemma. So I phoned you up. You were sitting in bed, weren't you? I was like, Gemma, I've lost my way. You were very nice about it. I was like proper sad. This is the first,
The first time
I've ever lost my wedding ring. I asked Chat GPT, and it was very reassuring, and says it's a common occurrence, and it's the love that the wedding ring symbolises that really matters.
It doesn't matter.
But anyway,
okay.
Gemma was very good. And then you spent most of the day on and off tearing the house apart for it, didn't you?
First of all, I leapt up out of bed, and I looked under your pillows, and I looked down the side of the bed, and I picked up your pyjamas, and I picked up all the stuff, all your clothes on the floor, and I threw them all over the place to try and find it. Yeah. And then I rushed out of that room and then ran up and down the corridors, went in and out the rooms, in the kitchen, in the bathroom. I looked in the lint trap inside the tumble dryer. I looked inside the washing machine. I looked in the drains in the bathroom. I looked in the bins. And then
Meanwhile,
hours
at
and
school, I
hours
was
passed.
just having to have a normal day at school, and I was just panicking all the way through, and I was just like feeling proper sad about it, and I was texting you back and forth, and have you found
I
it?
haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
People kept popping their heads around my classroom and saying, "You found your ring yet, Mike?" No. Oh,
Right.
well, don't worry, I'm sure you'll find it.
And so you said to me, well, I'm coming home 6:30 in the evening. So I went into the bedroom to make the bed, picked the duvet up to flick it out, and it was in the middle of the bed under the duvet next to me the whole time.
Literally, when I phoned Gemma up, sitting in bed, telling her.
If I just put my hand out, it would have been there. And I can't believe I didn't just do that, because I thought it's not going to be there. It's going to be somewhere really obscure.
I don't know I don't know why my wedding ring came off in the middle of the night.
Right,
what was I dreaming then? Anyway, that was my wedding disaster. Not as bad as Ryan's, or even rain on your wedding day. No, you said you liked that actually, didn't you? At least it wasn't acid rain. Not acid rain.
Rain, I like rain, and I think it's good luck.
Okay, anyway, we will get through this episode.
This is no good.
This is great. People love our little, our little stories about our everyday life.
Not everybody does.
Some people do.
Right.
Meanwhile, Crystal, who's now fallen off the face of the earth, and Ryan are in the cafe, and Ryan's saying, "Oh, can't wait to go to Ibiza with you, Crystal. This is going to be the last gig in this country." He's not. I know he is wrong, because he didn't even actually get. He's already had his last gig in this country, I reckon.
Why? I think if you having a DJ with a scarred face.
Oh yeah, he could be like DJ Scarface, couldn't he?
No,
He have a really cool name for it.
But it would it gives you a story. It gets you on the the second round of Britain's Got Talent.
That is true. He has got a sob story for when he goes in front of Simon Cowell. That is very, very true. Okay, so the Barlow clan, meanwhile, are getting ready at number 1. Ken offers to have a look at Daniel's vows for him. He says they're perfect. They're lovely, wonderful.
I love this.
Not a dry eye in the house, says Ken.
Right, because I've made fun of writers before using vows. Like, I'm sure the writers use the vows as a way of flexing their talents and going, "Look at me, I'm really cool," right? And we love Ian Kershaw. We met up with him, and he's so lovely. And I was thinking to myself, oh no, am I going to be invited to judge Ian Kershaw's amazing vows for Daniel? Because I'll hate them, no matter how good they are. I'll hate them. But then he never even got to say them, so I feel like we both got let off.
Yeah, but I mean, they haven't said about rescheduling the wedding yet. But
he can't use those again, because everyone's going to be like, "Those are nice vows, but he didn't mention the acid attack." You think that would come up?
Didn't he say something about there was going to be a touching tribute to Sinead in the vows?
I was like, no,
I don't think that's
I really
needed.
appreciate it, how much you love her, and you would have definitely been with her still. I don't think
I'd do it, Bethany.
If she hadn't died tragically young of cancer, but now's not the time
Don't
to
bring
bring that up. He's like, if my wife hadn't died, I'd still be with her, but guess what? You're great as well. If anything, you're fitter.
Equally good. Yeah.
I tell you what, Sinead never got a free wedding. All we got was free soap.
Yeah. Daisy, you know how to say soap, so...
pros and cons.
So, anyway, Ryan turns up at the pub to give them a lift to the wedding, and Jenny hasn't revealed to Daisy at this point yet that the car's been nicked, does she? And the look on Jenny's face like, "Oh, no, Ryan, don't go in there, haven't told her yet, shut up." And anyway, so the cat's out the bag at this point. Daisy's fuming. She's like, "The curse, it's true. I cannot even bring us out to speak," and fumes off out the back of the Rovers. Where Jenny finds her in a bit, and she's panicking because now the dress is too big.
Yes,
How did that happen?
Because she said she didn't have the final fitting. Don't forget, everybody backed out.
Oh yes, they did, didn't they?
And it did look too big. They did a good job, the wardrobe department of...
I didn't notice, did it?
Oh, it really did, yeah.
Well, Jenny kind of fixes it up with some safety pins, doesn't she?
It's fine, you can just safety pin it.
Thought it was... Did you like the dress?
I didn't.
Right. Oh, no, I forgot. You didn't rate it.
No, it looked beautiful. She looked gorgeous, but that style... I don't like.
You prefer...
I hate... The thing is about wedding dresses is it's so irrelevant what anybody else thinks about your wedding dress. It just feels wrong to even mention.
You prefer the lacier dress, don't you?
You asked me specifically.
I thought it was really nice. I like the bit that's the... Is that what it's called when you got the big...
No. Mermaid style's where it goes in at the... like where... You imagine a mermaid style and then...
Yeah.
It wasn't...
What's the thing that's over her...
puffy
shouldery.
puffy sleeves.
Yeah, like she's rolled it up in it. I thought it was lovely. Very, very nice.
I like the top part a lot. I really like those puffy sleeves. They look gorgeous.
Anyway, so it's too big, but Jenny's like, don't worry, we can fix it. It's all right.
Don't worry, things will get worse
Then,
soon.
then the cake gets delivered to the Rovers instead of the wedding venue. Oh my gosh. And it turns out to be the wrong cake. It's a retirement cake for Bernard, whoever
Bernard
that is.
never got his cake.
I know, that sucks. I he's the real victim in Monday's episode, isn't he? Poor Bernard has to retire on an empty stomach.
I told you that there were 3 real victims of Daisy's wedding, and it wasn't Daisy.
Daisy, Ryan and Bernard.
No, I said it wasn't Daisy.
Bernard, Ryan and...
No, listen, Daniel never got to read his amazing vows, and no one knows how good they are apart from Ken. Alia, because if Ryan is permanently scarred, then how is anyone going to know that she's the real victim? And number 3, Bernard never got his cake.
Okay, very true. Alright, I'm lost. Where are we? So...
we're being
after
flippant,
the break,
we'll be serious in a minute.
Yes, the serious stuff hasn't happened yet. We're
getting
it all
wind
out.
up to it.
Yeah. I'm so serious. Like, I've not even used the melty face emoji once on Twitter this week.
No. Next.
Such a killjoy. So, after the break, Jenny promises it's all going to be fine. She looks absolutely gorgeous. Not wrong. Glenda sorted the cake out already, and Daisy's like, thank you, God. She's really lovely. I just love Daisy with that gang. Glenda, Jenny, Daisy, mwah, love them. Alia, meanwhile, is talking to Ryan outside the pub. She saw him with Crystal earlier, and she's like, oh, you look so happy with Crystal. And he's like, yeah, it's early days yet. He's still kind of hoping at this point for Alia to say, don't go to Ibiza with her, stay here with me in Manchester, in Weatherfield, sorry. But she's like, oh, good luck, all the best, Ryan. Off you go, off you pop. So he goes inside, goes to the back, sees Daisy already there, and says, oh, you know, that Daniel sees her. He's a lucky fella. And she says, the wedding might not have been as plain sailing as I wanted, but me and Daniel love each other, and that's all that matters. So go to the bar, and there's a strange, shady man in the area around by the piano. He's got a bobble hat on, even though it's March. He's got a big puffy jacket on.
Well, it's cold.
Thick gloves. It's Justin. News Justin.
Oh no.
Acid attack.
No.
So yeah, he's got this glass, hasn't he? He kind of stands up, and he's. I'd love to know how many people watched Monday's episode with no idea that this was going to happen.
I really wish I had not known.
This is one of those spoilers that I wish that I had somehow managed to avoid. I really do, because that
obviously feels churlish to complain about things that they give out as warnings for mental health, because certainly, you know, I've not been, I've been open about things that trigger me in Coronation Street, and some things I can't watch. And it, you know, I appreciate knowing in advance what's going to happen with a story, so that if I can decide if I want to watch it or not. But on the other hand, there are, you know, people that argue that trigger warnings and things are actually more harmful than people realise, and they don't do as much good as everybody thinks. But who's anyone to decide whether somebody should know or not? It becomes very complicated. And I think Ryan Prescott did an interview with Duncan Lindsay in an article where he said that there were 300 acid attacks.
I know, that's crazy. I think that was the interview that was done with all the press a few weeks ago. We were invited along to that one. That was Zoom interview. 300
in a year. So
I
people
could not believe
this
that.
Who have gone through it, or know somebody who've gone through it, and
you never hear about it.
It's traumatizing to see something, and sometimes people benefit from watching it, but. Do you remember when they used to instead of the idents before Coronation Street, they used to show little clips. They went through a stage, and I don't remember when it was. It was like 10 plus years ago when it was there. And now on ITV Coronation Street, they'd show like a little 10-second clip of the thing that you're just about to watch. And I obviously absolutely hated that, because it was usually the grand finale or the climax or something that would happen right towards the end. I'm glad they got rid of that, but it does spoil it a little bit. I mean, what did they say? They probably, usually on those ident things, they usually just say, I don't know what the ident is, something about distressing.
Yeah, watch out. there's some sad stuff happening today. But yeah, obviously for mental health reasons and trigger warnings, etc., they had revealed in the press that this was going to happen, but they would have revealed it anyway. But yeah, it's still perfectly possible to avoid it, and this is one of those things, like I said, that I just wish that I hadn't seen coming. But I will say, I think I'm going to think the vast majority of viewers didn't realise that when Justin says, "Oh, now nobody will love you," and he chucks the glass at Daisy, it's Ryan that leaps heroically, Adi Alahan style, in front of it and takes the full brunt of the acid in the face. And on our Facebook group, there were threads starting up saying, "Did you see that? Did you know that? I didn't know about the twist. No, I didn't. I knew about the acid attack, but I didn't know it was Ryan." So I'm so pleased for those people that they got the element of surprise.
I don't even know how I found out, but usually it's you.
It wasn't this time though, because I found out sort of midway through last week. And I said, "Oh, I've just seen a spoiler." And usually when I say that, you say, "What? Tell me what it is then." And I told you, and you said, "Oh yeah, I already knew that." So it had got out somehow.
Somebody leaked it by accident.
Yeah, it was an accidental leak. No,
which is even more frustrating. But it's
and it's not the first time that things have been leaked accidentally. That are supposed.
Anyway,
so frustrating.
So Ryan had no idea that Justin was throwing acid at Daisy. He thought it was, a beer or something, and he wanted to stop her from getting it on her bloody dress.
Yeah, exactly. So he leaps in front.
He wouldn't have done it if he knew.
No, probably. Well, you know what? He's an honourable chap.
Would you have?
It's the modern equivalent of putting your cloak over a muddy puddle for the Queen.
Is it particularly the same?
Just the same. So he leaps in front. It's acid. Ryan's like goes, "Ah!" And then basically, that's the sound you make when you...
Exactly right.
Yeah. Effects are plenty at this point as Ryan falls to the ground in pain. He's got acid over the left-hand side of his face, hasn't he?
Well, he's groaning and crying.
Well, yeah, writhing around on the floor. Justin is like making his quick getaway. Well, yeah, he didn't mean to get Ryan, did he? So he kind of barges past Daisy, pushing her to the floor.
She's confused.
She's like got a splash on her chest, hasn't she? And I don't know whether I guess she's going to be permanently scarred by this. But Ryan obviously needs to stay in hospital, and he's still there at the end of the week now, and Daisy gets let out pretty easily. So, although it did get her, I guess, I don't know. Is she going to have a permanent scar that whenever they show her in low cut things now, they're going to have to remember that mark? Or I don't know, because most of the rest of this week she's been very covered up, hasn't she? She's not got her usual. Sexy clothes on. She's got the big long sleeves and long. No, she doesn't. She was
she's bundled up.
She's definitely a lot more covered up and yeah. Anyway, so Daisy's there, kind of writhing about in the floor. I'm gonna say for a little bit too long.
Unfortunately, it was before the break, so you had the ident as you were going into the adverts, and they just had her on the floor like. Being shocked for a bit too much. Just a bit too long, I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, after the break, she's still going. She kind of crawls over to him. It's all kind of blurry and everything. She goes over to him, and she's still massively in shock, isn't she? Because she's there,
she's in pain.
Yeah, she kind of goes over to see him, and then backs up and goes up against the wall, doesn't she?
It's not something you really think is going to happen.
No. She just doesn't know what to do, so she comes to, calls for an ambulance, and then they tell her that she needs to get that cold water on him fast. So she drags him upstairs to the bathroom, plops him in the shower, turns the shower on. It was a really, really...
She runs downstairs.
Intense moment. Oh yeah, that's right. She goes downstairs. I was like, what you do? She goes to the kitchen, doesn't she? And I don't know what she's looking for. And then she pulls out this pair of scissors, which she goes and slices Ryan's t-shirt off of him, which I'm sure lots of people have probably wanted to do in the past as well. Just maybe not in these circumstances. And that's kind of...
So the sound design was really good as well, because there was just this kind of weird distortion, and the sound of one of the songs was playing, and there was screaming and howling.
Oh my god! Ryan Prescott screams. He was good. He was
because it's like a
good
combination
this week, mister.
Of pain, surprise, confusion, anger.
Yeah,
regret.
I think the confusion was like
what's happened?
What is going on
and
here?
why has this happened?
How long does it take you to realise? Oh, that must be acid.
Yeah.
Like somebody's face is melting, literally, which Corrie did a pretty good job of not showing. I mean, this was all, what time was this that this was going on? About 8:30 or so. So pre-Watershed, which is why I think they had to make it so effects heavy, because I don't think they would have got away with showing.
No, I don't know.
They've put on some clear pictures of Ryan Prescott's makeup on like the Instagram and everything since, and everything in kind of natural light, and when you're told, oh, here's an effect, it's like it doesn't look as bad
or scary.
Really, or scary in real life. But I think if they'd have really shown the full horror of what it would have actually looked like on Coronation Street, they'd have been slapped with a proper Ofcom warning from that.
They did a good job with obscuring it through like the water of the shower, and his hand was over it, and the blurriness of looking at it through the water on the shower.
There was one point when I kind of paused the video when I was looking back on it later, and they did have a full on this is what it looks like, but it's a kind of blink and you miss it moment. But yeah, it was great. And there was the bit when like the shower head goes upside down and the water splashes up towards the camera, which is looking down on top of him. It was really, really, really well done. It was very, very effective. It was fantastic. It was a epic moment for sure. Definitely my Corrie episode of the year so far, I'm going to say, even more than Stephen Reed's LSD trip. So anyway, meanwhile, you're going outside to the pub, and Abby's there. Just while she's walking past the shop or something. And at this point, I was like, as if this episode couldn't get any better, they're going to have Abby in there doing her hero thing. And she's just kind of like, oh, what's going on? Meanwhile, as well, wedding guests are getting a bit impatient at the lovely venue. Now, you found a bit about this venue earlier today, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where did you say it was?
It's in Wigan.
Yeah.
And it is called... Hang on a minute. I wasn't prepared.
It's
Ashfield
very fancy.
House.
Yeah.
And so I looked. I was like, I wonder how much this costs to rent this. Obviously, Daisy didn't pay for this because she's an influencer, so she got it.
She
for
doesn't
free.
need to pay for anything.
For a Monday in March, it costs £2,150.
Very reasonable.
Well, the maximum you're going to pay for this place is £7,050 for April to September Saturday wedding in 2025. But you have to add on to those costs a daytime guest price of £125 per person, which includes a 3-course meal, canapé, drinks, coffee, half a bottle of wine, and a Prosecco to toast.
Well, I'm going to say no wonder Daniel didn't invite his mum along then.
Well, yeah.
Not worth it, sorry, Denise.
And also, Abby didn't get invited either, so...
No, not...
She was free to...
Neither did Daisy's dad, who I'm still very much in the dark about.
Yeah, I know.
He's got a bit of a mention since Christina's been in the programme, hasn't he?
You'd think he would...
You stole him away from me, Jenny. But I'm not under... I don't think they've said much... Well, Daisy's talked to Jenny and said, oh... Did she say like he blames me for it, or he went distant from me after Tom died or something? But
it hasn't been mentioned recently, so
peculiar that he wasn't there. But yeah, he's going to be £125. Not sure. Well, although we didn't, I was going to say we didn't have Denise there, but we did see her in Benidorm today, didn't we?
Yeah,
still ploughing through Benidorm in series 7 now.
2 minute sides,
and she was there. No, it's fine. It's fine.
So Abby sees the
ambulance. The wedding guests are getting a bit impatient. Well, mostly Tracy's getting impatient.
Well,
got to get back to work. She says.
Daniel's standing there at the altar waiting, and then Daisy, Tracy, and Sarah both start saying, "Oh, we've got other things to do." It's like, hang on, how much time did you plan for this wedding? Because it's an all-day thing normally.
Well, I mean, if they've only been invited to the ceremony, they were probably thinking that we're going to go back.
Well, I suppose if it's £125, I'm not paying for Tracy to have some canapes.
And then Glenda's there saying, "Oh, I'll sing a few numbers." Like, everyone's like, no. What is wrong with Glenda's singing? If Rita wants to sing a song, everyone's like, "Hail Rita!"
And everyone's like, "Oh God, she won't."
No, they're not. They think some of the viewers
I know.
might be,
Yeah,
but everybody is like, "Oh, Rita, you voice of an angel. Glenda actually has got a fantastic voice, but
It's
it's a running joke that nobody wants to hear.
It's a running joke.
Daniel is... Oh, I feel so bad for Daniel because he's there looking at the door, doesn't he? And then Gemma walks in with these massive glasses looking a bit like Elton John reject. And Daniel's like, oh, I thought it was Daisy. Maybe she's not coming at all, my beautiful bride. So that's all very tragic. And then we cut back to Abby walking into the pub and like, honestly... It's like Ian Kershaw wrote Abby into the episode just for me. Love it. And she was so calm. She kind of goes in and sees the disarray in the bar, doesn't she?
Screaming.
Yeah. At first she can't. She goes in there and she sees like there's bar stools tipped over, and she like picks them up. One of the bar stools had like an acid burn in it, didn't it?
Yeah. We'd watched crater.
We watched the Emmerdale acid attack episode or clip from it just before we watched Monday's episode, so we'd have something to compare it to, and that was pretty well done. But it feels like the actual attack itself on Emmerdale was over a lot more quickly, and then the guy that got acid in the face, Ross I think he's called, gets found by a couple of others, doesn't he? But on that one, he's has acid thrown in his face when he's standing by the car, and there's like sizzling acid on the car bonnet, and on this one you get a bit of sizzling acid on the bar top. So I think Corrie did it better from what I can see, but I've only seen a small amount of the Emmerdale one anyway. So anyway, Abby's kind of looking around in the bar going, what's going on here then? Then she hears the screams upstairs and she heads up there and finds Daisy, because Ryan's in the shower still at this point, isn't he? Just with this stream of water on his face, and Daisy's just sitting on the floor, panicking away, and... God bless her. Abby is just like so kind and lovely and calm. Like... Most people, if you'd gone up there and found what she found, it would be like, what the hell's going on here? But Abby knows just what to do in a crisis. Leads her away gently. Fantastic, love her. And that's that bit really. So back at the venue, things are not looking good for Daniel. And this is when Jenny gets her phone call from Abby. And you see, like, from Daniel's point of view, looking down at Jenny, and her face falls. And she looks at Daniel, and what is going through his head at this point? He knows what does he think is happening? I wonder. Like,
I would imagine he's thinking she's given up on me, or she's not
jilted.
coming. Yeah, you wouldn't think. Oh, it's probably an acid attack.
You get 300 of these in Manchester every year, so chances are it probably is one. So meanwhile. Daisy's having a few flashbacks, again not necessarily needed, about Justin, and DS Swain has turned up. She's totally out of it. She's just like, can't remember. DS
Swain's like, oh god, I was having such a bender last night.
Not Swain.
I don't know what is going on. What happened here then?
I was shagging in the club last night, says DS Swain. Daisy just... She's just in shock, isn't she? And she's trying to explain what happened, but can't really. And Abby's there, bless her again, saying, look, missus, can you just see that she's not in any state to be able to answer your question at the moment? Bless her.
It gets a bit tiring, this reaction that always happens on Corrie. And I know that it must happen in real life, but it happens on Corrie way more often than surely it does. Where somebody's like, we need to talk to you about what's just happened. And somebody else goes, leave them alone. Can't you see how sad they are? And the police are like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this for fun. I love traumatising people. Yeah, it actually doesn't matter if you tell me now or next year, whenever you feel like it. But, you know...
When you're ready, love.
Don't worry about writing down any details or remembering anything. We'll just go round driving about and see if we can find anybody who's got acid in a glass.
Oh, it doesn't really annoy me because I can totally see lots of people, especially Abby, being like she was. And the thing with this is, like, what's Abby got to do with Daisy? Nothing. They're not friends. They don't really know each other very well.
Didn't get invited to the wedding.
Didn't get invited to the wedding even, but good old Good Samaritan there.
What are you supposed to do? Go, sorry love, you didn't invite me, so...
Sorry, our characters don't usually have scenes together, so...
Don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, she's... The Swain's going, look, was it definitely Justin who did this? Did he say where he was going to next? Weird question. And Abby's getting more and more frustrated, and Swain says, right, plenty of police officers, they're all out looking for him, and Daisy's like, oh yeah, how many are out there looking for him? She totally calls her out on this, which is a great moment. She's like, the police don't know anything. You don't know what you're doing. I have been to the station so many times in the last few months. I've made statement after statement. After everything I told you, I've always just been told Justin's not done anything. Well, now he has, hasn't he? And Swain's like, sorry about that. Under new management. We'll catch him. Daisy says, well, that's going to be hardly a consolation now to Ryan, is it? So later on we see Daisy in the hospital in the burns ward, and she's got dressings on her wounds on her chest. Jenny and Daniel
She's still
turn
wearing
up.
a wedding dress.
Yeah. Jenny and Daniel turn up. She starts to explain what happened, but just can't hold it together. She's breaking down in tears. And then over on the street, all the guests are starting to get back. Dee Dee and Alia walk up to her, and I can't remember what Dee Dee said, but it was something fairly...
It's like, who's in trouble around here then? It's like,
yeah,
listen,
there's what was it, an ambulance or a police car or something
it's
there?
like, Dee Dee, that is so insensitive. And as a solicitor, you would think that you would not go, look, police, how exciting.
Usually, I think that's a bit of a
She's not very
trope actually
tactful,
on
is she?
Coronation Street. There being some massive drama that's happened, and then somebody goes, oh, who's died round here then? It's kind of along those lines, isn't it? Like,
It's along the
probably
lines of,
someone knowing this street.
cheer up, it might never happen.
Anyway, so this is when Alia finds out what's happened to Ryan. Alia runs off to go and see him.
She's like, yes, grief. I can suck
I
it
feed
up.
off it.
Yummy.
Daisy is telling Daniel and Jenny this is all her fault. She's the one that drove Justin into doing this, and Jenny's like, no, you could not have done anything to stop this. Justin's responsible for this, not you. But I think it's perfectly natural for Daisy to blame herself, don't you?
How could you not? He tried to save her, and he only got covered in acid because Justin was trying to get Daisy. Of course she'd feel guilty.
Yeah.
But obviously, again, it's the person to blame is
Justin.
the person who did the crime.
Yes. Well, just like when Ardy was shot, and Kelly blamed herself. It wasn't. It was old, whatever his name was, gangster for hire that did it. Anyway, number one later, Barlow's are kind of having an near end of episode reflect on what happened, and Adam says, "Oh, Daisy did the right thing, reporting Justin. He'll be arrested now." And they kind of strike up a bit of a conversation about Adam's on the side of the law, isn't he? He's saying he's defending the police and saying this is how the justice system works. It might not be perfect, but it's what we've got, and it's good in many ways. And Tracy's saying, too late for that now. They should have done something months ago, weeks ago.
Well,
before
I want
today,
to point out that we've got the conflation here of two separate storylines in a sense. And two different issues have kind of come into one here.
Yeah, because Amy was there, wasn't she?
No, I'm talking about the stalking and the acid attack. Those are two different things. And Coronation Street's put them together here. But I think a lot of people are getting themselves confused about how... I mean, let's be frank. Acid attacks aren't normally the result of an escalation of somebody who stalks you. Acid attacks are more likely gang related or to do with... It is to do with like male violence against women, like if they fancy them or they've been rejected or, you know, an ex or something like that. But this is a very obscure reason that somebody would get acid on them, isn't it?
I guess I don't know. I don't know anything about acid attacks, to be honest.
Well, you know, the organisation that Coronation Street worked with, which is the ASTI, which we'll talk about a bit later on in the news section.
I'm sure we will.
Actually, per capita, the UK has one of the highest rates of acid attacks in the world.
Oh, really?
Which is horrible. And it's... the reason I looked this up was because I was thinking Emmerdale and Coronation Street have both done acid attack storylines involving men, which I think is very strange because obviously more women are victims of acid attacks. No, not true. In the UK, at one point there were actually double the number of male victims as female victims, but it was mostly a result of gang violence.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's going to be gang violence related, it's most likely to be a gangster than the
men
mole.
Men are more likely to be the perpetrators and also the victims, because the sale of acid is not regulated, and there is no legislation or crime specific to an acid attack. So it just falls under, attempted murder, GBH, whatever, assault. There's no specific crime, acid attack crime.
That's weird. Is it?
Well, I don't.
Is it kind of like a modern crime? How long have people been chucking acid at each other? I don't know what the history
of acid attacks are, but they've only been recording. Looks like they've only really been recording it since 2011 or 2012.
It does feel like, when we were younger, we didn't hear about people getting acid thrown on them.
They've got a map here of a worldwide problem of acid attacks, but it isn't actually, because it seems as though it's the Caribbean, part of South America, a lot of Asia, India, the UK, Italy, parts of Africa. But, there's other countries like Australia, Canada, America, Russia. There are vast swathes of the world where it doesn't seem to be a big problem.
Okay. I'm going to get back to this. So,
no, I'm just telling you that obviously there's a cultural aspect too. We've heard stories, on honour killings and honour attacks and in India and things like that. This is nothing to do with that. It's a completely different kind of storyline where they've put together the issue of stalking and the issue of acid attacks.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think that those two are always. It's not like, oh yes, the old acid stalker. Story.
No,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know why it's been done like that, but.
It doesn't feel weird for them.
No,
to
it doesn't.
linked.
It honestly doesn't feel like it feels completely logical. It makes sense. Justin seems like, he gave a reason why he did it later, and it makes complete sense. And it's an interesting thing, and it does make sense. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So,
you know me.
I do. Over at the hospital, Alia's here. Everybody, don't worry. Here I am. I'm a victim too.
I was blown up.
Did she even mention her getting blown up? She just seems to be banging on about the fact that she was stabbed on Monday's episode.
Yeah, but she wasn't. See, out of the two, I'd bring up the blowing up more.
Yeah. No, but you don't. That's like
stabbing's very
10 a penny in Weatherfield, isn't it? Yeah. Not many people get blown up in a van, so I'd be picking up that one a bit more, Ali, if you want the most sympathy points.
I'd say, Ryan, sorry about it and everything, but quite a lot of men are victims of acid attacks. How many young women, beautiful ones like me, get blown up in a van? Hardly any. So really, I'm still the biggest victim.
Alia, poor Alia. We make so much fun of
so
her.
mean to Alia.
Yeah. She asked for it. Sorry.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
She turns up at the hospital and the nurse is telling her and Jenny and Daniel that they're doing the best they can, but there's still some areas of Ryan's skin they're really, really struggling with. Daisy kind of updates Alia on what's happened. And then we see Justin turn up in a car outside the hospital. And that was quite exciting because once he disappeared out of the pub earlier in the episode, honestly, I wasn't expecting to see him again that episode. I thought this was going to be a
prolonged.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a long Justin hunt.
I thought he'd come back again and confront Daisy again. By herself.
I suppose it's kind of narratively satisfying for him to get arrested at the end of the episode rather than dragging it on, and now the story isn't about him anymore.
Yeah,
it's about Ryan and
Alia.
And Alia, of course,
it's
all about Alia, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is the last we've seen of Justin, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've not seen anything on social media or anything about, well, that was his final appearance or anything. I mean, I guess there may well be a trial, but they don't even
need one.
They don't need a trial because it's not like there's gonna be any tension about whether he'll get set down or not, will they? Yeah. So it might just be something we hear about. But anyway, he shows up in his car outside the hospital, and this was during the time when they're remodelling the front of the ITV building at Coronation Street
which
set.
Is normally the front of the hospital.
Yeah, so they have to use the side entrance, and so Alia goes into Ryan's room to go and see him, and he's at this stage he's got dressings all over his face, and he keeps them all week, doesn't he? And he's still trying to act all cheery and brave about it, isn't he? At this point, he's like saying, "Oh, I've looked better, haven't I? I've looked better, right?" And oh gosh, Daisy meanwhile is going out to get some fresh air. Of course she is, just when Justin's turned up, and she sees him in the car there, and she strides over to him and is like, "You get out, get out." But what was he? Why did he turn up? What was he? Do you think he was going to get out and go and try and find Daisy in the hospital, assuming
obsessed.
that she's there?
He's like a moth to the flame. He can't leave her
Can't
alone.
stay away from her. But when he sees what a state she's in, he's like, "I'm just going to lock my car door here," because she's there banging on the windscreen saying, "Why would you do something like that?" And she says, "Oh, I just wanted to look after you. Maybe if you look different, the shallow people wouldn't want to be with you, just me." And all in a really twisted way, it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense.
To him.
I'd make you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't love you because you're beautiful. I love you because of who you are. But other people, you're distracted because other people give you attention.
Yeah.
But it's only because of how you look. So if I take your looks away, then you'll realise that I'm the one who loves you the best.
Yeah, and I loved her reaction to this, where she suddenly, at last, realises, I can get to him by playing along with this. And she just kind of clicks, doesn't she, into, "Oh, Justin, I see everything now. Everything you've been saying, all that you've been doing, the lengths you've been going to prove your love for me. You've passed the test, Justin." And I was watching this just going, "Oh, Daisy, what are you going to get it?" Oh. And she says, "Oh, you've finally proven yourself worthy of my love. Open the door. And he's like,
he's like, "Hang on a minute."
Yeah, he's like,
"I'm not that
This is
crazy."
all what I wanted. But should I trust her? And he opens the doors, and she's like, launches herself at him, grabs the keys.
Well, she said she wants to
honks
give him
the
a kiss.
horn.
She's like, "Give me a kiss."
Oh yeah,
She's
she
like,
does,
"Oh yeah,
doesn't
great,
she? Yeah.
great."
Yeah, that's the thing that makes him open the
It's
door.
like, all right, then.
That's what he's been looking for. And then yeah, she's honking the horn, saying, "I hate you, I hate you." And then the police turn up. It's almost like they were just kind of sitting there watching up until this point.
They're like,
saying,
"Don't get involved.
Get
Because
involved
it's
in
a hospital.
this.
People are sad and they always have fights."
The crime hasn't been technically committed yet. There's just a crazy woman in a wedding dress banging on a car. I can't arrest her for that,
normal.
can we? But anyway, the police burst up to them and arrest Daisy. So I know they don't arrest Justin.
They're like, "You lied to a man.
As Daisy walks
How could
off.
you hurt his feelings?
Daisy, I loved
You
it. That was a
harlot.
great scene, fantastic.
Off to jail with you."
Back with Alia and Ryan later, and he's still there wincing away. He's still clearly very, very much in pain. He's full of sedatives, but it's not really hitting the spot there. And Alia's just going, "Oh." Is she going on about being a victim in this episode? I can't remember, or whether she saves all that till Monday. Probably no now. Daisy returns to the waiting room in the hospital to tell Jenny and Daniel that police have got Justin. Then Alia comes out and
She's
says,
like, "I've solved the case. The man's arrested. Bada bing, bada boom."
Yeah.
And Daniel and Jenny are like, "Oh."
"Well, I'm glad you sold your bit."
And meanwhile, I can't remember who it was. Steve, Kirk, Tim, one of these buffoony men, going, "Wonder what happened to all the food."
Somebody does say that, don't they?
Well, I can tell you that the menu that they offer at this house
Is it pretty good?
really nice stuff. Really nice
I think it's
stuff.
the next episode. Steve says, "Oh, what happened to the food? Here, look." So yeah, anyway, Alia comes out of seeing Ryan and says that they're going to take him to theatre to go and see George Banks and the Mousetrap. They're gonna give him a skin graft, aren't
And they're
they?
like, "Listen, buddy, don't tell anyone who it was, what done it, otherwise we'll cut you up."
He wants to see Daisy first, though, so she kind of tentatively walks in there. She asks how he's doing, and he's just like, yeah, he can't bring himself to talk at this stage. He's still grief-stricken, as you would be. She tells him about Justin being arrested and apologises, and he's like, no, it's happened. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh, so brave, such a
well,
brave
then at the end
soldier.
he says, he's like, what am I going to do, Daisy? What am I going to do? And I thought that was really great because it's just hopeless and there's no other way to articulate it. It's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, this is like,
and he's
obviously
trying to
a
be
turning
brave.
point.
He's trying to be brave and stuff, but who's he trying to be brave for? You know, and he and Daisy have got this kind of bond now where they've both gone through this trauma, and he obviously has some kind of feelings for her because
it's still lingering from.
And he jumped in front of Justin, and she's obviously desperately grateful and guilty, and horrified that he's going through this suffering, and she's probably a bit of her is thinking, God, I'm so glad that's not me. But now I feel even worse because
you would absolutely be thinking that could be me in there. I'm so
glad
lucky,
it's not
but
me.
you'd be feeling that'd make you feel
that would
10
make you
times
feel worse because you're like, well, he's only there because of me.
Yeah, how cruel of me to be thinking
but
that
then
I'm
I guess
really
some
lucky.
people would be thinking I'd rather it was me.
I mean, Daisy does say that, I think in the next episode, doesn't she? Like,
well,
it
just
should
to
have been
assuage
me,
the
but
guilt.
yeah,
but
really, you'd
not
be glad it wasn't you.
I'm not surprised that, given the choice of having an acid attack storyline that took out a major character, they thought a bit more hard about, do we really want Daisy?
Well, yeah.
And it's very shallow, but, you know, Charlotte Jordan's a beautiful woman, and I know that a lot of people are fans of her, not because she's incredibly talented, but she's also incredibly beautiful. I mean, and I don't know what would have happened.
But it's weird because Ryan Prescott is also, you know, hunky guy, isn't he? Lots of people fancy him.
Well, we know that Charlotte Jordan's got a massive fan base.
Yeah, I just think that.
And I'm not saying that the fans are going to be like shallow and like not like go off the character. I just think that there's a lot more to
for the, you know,
and that's why this is why men target women like this, because of how important the way a woman looks is, especially somebody like Daisy. And of course, that's not to say that it doesn't matter that Ryan got it on his face. Of course not, Ryan, you know. But there's definitely an aspect of the gender.
Because when I saw that this acid attack was going to be happening, because it was all promoted as acid attack at Daisy's wedding, or Daisy's involved in an acid attack, the wording of it, looking back at it now, is very clever in that it doesn't actually, nothing says that she has acid, that she gets covered in acid, but they wanted you to believe that she would. And I remember when I was reading that a couple of weeks ago thinking, are they really going to permanently scar one of their most popular, beautiful actresses? And that's really bold move.
And again, I'm not being shallow. I'm being practical.
Yeah, no, exactly. From a practical point of view, that would have been. And I don't. That would have been shooting themselves in the foot a little bit.
And I really don't know what the future holds for Ryan.
No.
But we do know that it involves a lot of extra work.
Well, yeah, he says he's been, you know, doing the interview circuits this week, and he said that the prosthetics take an hour to put on and an hour to take off at the moment,
so
and they
make
will
of
get
that whatever you will.
They will get quicker at it.
I mean, from a perspective of like practicality, in a sense, you could hide Daisy's with some hair, which you couldn't do with Ryan unless he grows his hair longer. But I mean,
I wonder whether we're just going to have lots of scenes of Ryan turned to one side, or like backwards shots of him or something.
You know, in a sense, I'm thinking it would have been a more interesting character to have had Daisy, but it would have been miserable. And she would have had to reevaluate everything about her life and what was important to her, and how people interact with her would have completely changed. It would have been really fascinating because it's going to happen to Daisy eventually. She's going to grow older, and people are not going to find her as attractive, and there's going to be a point at which she stops and thinks to herself, what the hell has happened, and why are people not reacting to me? There was somebody posted a quote from Elsie Tanner at one point saying, you know, when I was young, I could have any man I wanted. Now look at me. You know, it happens to everybody.
Yeah. But you're right. In the short term, I think as shocking as it would have been if it had been Daisy with a melted face, I think.
Stop saying that.
Well, that's what it is. Ryan is the better character for it to
I don't know
happen
if it's the better character from a narrative point of view, but from a practical point of view, it's the only way that makes sense, and also it was a great twist. Yeah,
it was, and I don't know what the future holds for him. All I know is that the actor who played Ross on Emmerdale, who was the one that got the face full of acid 5 years ago, let's say, he left the show within 6 months, and I really hope that isn't the case for Ryan, and I'd like to think it won't be, because if it follows the same path, and it's just like it's like giving up on a character. I don't know. It's like with Todd Scar, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when Bruno played Todd, he had a scar for the last couple of years, and it was just like a little nick on his cheek that probably didn't take too long to put on at all. But I remember when that happened, thinking, you got to commit to that now, Coronation Street, forever. It's like when a character gets a tattoo, isn't it? When they like have David with his arms showing, they have to put that Tina stamp on there. And if they want to keep Ryan in the show for the foreseeable future, which I hope they do, there's a lot of work there, and they'll get quicker and everything. But I mean,
it's not going to ever be instant.
No, but I mean, you know, lots of shows have got characters in full makeup all the time. You know.
Yeah, but they don't film. You know, they don't run 3 times a week.
That is also true. That's true. But then Ryan's not on it 3 times a week, is he? Ryan isn't a particularly heavily featured character. Maybe this will change for him.
You would have assumed that this would have all been taken into consideration, and
yeah.
You know, and it's interesting. Who would have known? Well, when we did our character profile of Ryan,
I know we literally only did him about a month and a half ago.
I think that was it was worth doing just to talk about him. And we said when we were doing it, there was a lot of potential with Ryan. But I
didn't expect this.
Yeah, I know. But my worry is now that we're never going to actually properly see it, because he might leave. I don't know. We really do not know what his plans are, and it's all very well for anyone to say, "Oh, I don't mind doing it for an hour, 2 hours a day," but who knows what will.
Well, yeah, he could well get fed up of it.
Well, I'm not saying that. Yeah.
I mean, he's got to get out.
You really don't know how you're going to react to something like that until it happens.
Yeah, he's got to get out, in that he could just go off to Ibiza with this crystal. And what I'm assuming is going to happen, and we've still got plenty of this week's episode to talk about first, is that Alia and him are going to get closer, and she'll be like, I don't care what you look like, it's you that I love, and this will bring them together, and then he'll stay on the street.
Crystal's certainly buggered off.
Well, yeah, maybe Crystal's going to just be like, I'm not interested in you anymore, I only needed you for your top DJing skills.
I only wanted you for your looks.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So, Anyway, let's get back to what happened. There's more to talk about later. So, Daisy and Daniel and Alia are at the hospital at the beginning of Wednesday's episode again.
Oh, Steve's wondering what happened to the wedding food.
Yeah, I said it was Steve earlier. I said that.
Okay.
Daisy's looking totally drained. Still in their wedding dress, hasn't she? Yeah, she's just kind of out of duty, thinking, I've got to stay there all night. It's because of me that he's in here. And she refuses to go home until she finds out how Ryan is after this operation that he's had. She's getting harassed by sponsors over the phone who are like fuming at the fact that all of these wedding bits and bobs that they've given to her for free
aren't on
Instagram at this point.
I've got to get something off my chest
here. Do it.
Like, Daisy, you twonk, right? You've committed yourself to spending either your wedding day, part of your wedding day, or the day after your wedding, to uploading social media posts to placate these sponsors, or no, I can't remember what the other thing was.
That's about the only option.
Well, but and she hasn't thought that people might wonder where her posts are, and she's getting mad at them, going, "Oh, maybe I should just take a photo of myself in A&E and send it to them to show them." Yeah, maybe, because then they'll know what you've done.
Yeah, she is getting a little bit...
She's getting high and mighty about them harassing her. She's the one that's got thousands of pounds worth of free stuff. And yeah, it is crap, but all she had to do was say, Jenny, can you please help me?
I just think I'm going to give her some slack here and say she is still in shock and she's not thinking straight.
But why did she say, yeah, I'm going to post the day of my wedding or the day after my wedding to let everybody know? Honestly, she could have said, I will upload it a week later. I think this is just supposed to be dramatic. I understand this is just a story. But in real life, I think I would have given her a little shake and gone, yes, because you've basically got about 20 grand's worth of free stuff and you told them that you'd upload it.
Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't have had any harm to have done it the next week, would it? But
why did it have to be uploaded the day of her wedding?
They didn't even have... They could have had the scene of Daniel talking to her about this and saying this is ridiculous, because he was... I don't think he was ever fully behind the idea that they were getting all this stuff for free and having his wedding paraded all over SNPX for all and sundry to see. But
it must be a bit of a delicate subject to criticise too much in the world of Coronation Street production, because you're working with people who have sold their weddings to Hello Magazine or something. True. Like whatever, it's fine, but I bet you nobody who sold their wedding to Hello Magazine was like, yeah, I'll write the article the day of my wedding and take all the photos myself.
So the consultant comes in to see Ryan. He's a nice guy, isn't he, this consultant? And Ryan's still trying to be brave.
Well, they've got two, haven't they? They've got a surgeon and they've got a psychotherapist.
Yeah. So he's been told that they've removed the damaged tissue, but it's too early to say what underneath is like. It's like, it's a bit like Grizzly, isn't it?
I know this is inappropriate, but I just keep going back to Jack Nicholson's Joker, when that scene where he's in the... And also, wasn't it Heath Ledger did it as well?
No, I'm thinking of Harvey Dent in the Joker film.
They're both the same kind of idea, but it's Joker where he's like, show me the mirror, and then he looks at himself.
Yeah. You're right, that is, yeah. I'm thinking of Two-Face.
Well, I think Ryan's got lots of opportunities for whoever he wants to model himself on.
He does.
As long as it's somebody out of a Batman film.
They're taking him for a skin graft on his arm later today, and then they kind of say, maybe you can see your face later tonight, and he's like, he's not ready for this. He sheds a little tear. Oh. Yasmin arrives at the hospital, and Daniel tells Daisy that Jenny's handling all the wedding stuff now. At last. And then, Daisy's like, oh, am I taking too long to recover, am I? Alia's allowed in to go and see Ryan.
I understand why she's upset. I understand why she's upset, but I just think she's set herself up for... Like, if she had been a bit hungover, it still would have been the same situation. She would have... Like, if she woken up at midday on the day after her wedding, after having sozzled herself on free wine at this venue that cost however much, thousands of pounds... She still wouldn't have uploaded it.
I don't know, as a social media kind of influencer sort of person who's used to, it's all about the now and the instant and get it up straight away.
Not for a wedding.
For her, no, but maybe it does feel like everything is about get it up. And so it might not have even occurred to her, or it's just kind of natural to get it up straight away. Of course I would. It's like me, when we've been to Manchester or whatever, and I'm like, I got to get the pictures up for everybody to see straight away. They don't need to see it straight away, but I want to.
Yeah, well, she's mad about it and acting like nobody has got the right to ask her when they don't know.
So Alia goes in and chats.
I just wonder whether her social media career now, is this going to be the end of it? Because nobody's sympathetic to her. And now twice she's gone through something horrific, and it's been related tangentially to her social media persona, and nobody's given her any slack. There's no like, she hasn't got a following of people who are super supportive of her no matter what happens. It's not like she's getting anything from followers. She hasn't got a relationship with anybody. She hasn't got like, hi gang or anything. It's just people going, where's my post? Where's my post? Where's my post? Because she had the same thing before, didn't she?
Yeah.
When they all turned their back on her when Justin told them about what had happened with her. Yeah. So is she burned her bridges now? I don't know. Is this going to be then? I think Daniel and Daisy are going to have a wedding, another one,
at some point.
I think it's going to be a very pared down one. Not just because, from a narrative perspective, she's learned her lesson that materialism only leads to sin and death. But also because the production probably can't afford to rent that lovely wedding venue again.
Bistro okay for you this time, Jay-Z?
Bistro.
Yeah,
Bistro.
maybe. Yeah, bistro, lovely. Love a good
Prosecco, bistro.
But, you know, mate, they still haven't had ever a Rover's wedding, have they?
It's not a licensed venue. You have to be licensed to perform a wedding.
Well, I think that Jenny could pull a few strings. They could get the Rover's license for weddings, couldn't they? They got a massive, upstairs.
Can I just say, Coronation Street, the actual set needs to be licensed for weddings.
Yeah, it does actually. You're right. Anyway, so Alia goes in to see Ryan, and she's very sympathetic to his plight because she was a victim too earlier this year. I don't know whether she's mentioned this before.
When I was stabbed and blown up, I was also sad, but you've got to get over it.
When I was stabbed, I didn't want to be alone, and so you don't want to be alone either because
don't push people away like me.
And he says, "Oh, I don't want to see anyone, including you." And he tells her to leave.
Well, I would be the same way here because I hate people pitying me, and he even says that. And I really felt a connection to him when he said this. Like, I don't want people to feel bad, sorry for me. I hate that.
It's a bit of that for him, and it's also that he just hates how hideous he looks, and he doesn't want anybody looking at him and judging him. And
crap already about worrying about what you look like, and then people keep coming and looking at you and crying and going away again.
You'd see their eyes glancing down. Like as soon as when his bandages are off, you're going to be looking at people whose eyes are just going to be flicking down
and for the rest
at the
of his
face.
Life, whenever he goes anywhere, people are going to look at him and he's going to see their eyes go back and forwards.
Literally for the rest of his life, because it's human nature to look.
Well, I can't criticize people because it's something different that you wouldn't have seen before. So you are going to look.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's like rubbernecking, isn't it?
Well, it's not the same.
Well, it's similar, but I feel so bad for him,
really bad for him,
and everybody who goes through that.
So I feel bad for Alia.
300. I don't feel bad for Alia. She shouldn't have bloody driven off in the van with a bomb in it, should she? She asked for that. But 300 people a year in Manchester alone, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, the statistics from this ASTI, it says that in London in 2018 it was corrosive substances were used 310 crimes, and then nationwide in 2018 there were 501, so it must have gone up massively for there to be
300 in Manchester last year.
From 2011 to 2016 there were 1,464 crimes involving acid or corrosive substance.
Yeah, that's on the rise. That is definitely on the rise. Although, I mean, maybe around 2021 we were all a little bit in lockdown, weren't we? 2,078
acid attack crimes recorded in that period of time. Only 414 of them resulted in charges.
Okay, where do we get to? So Alia goes back to see everyone else and reports what a bad state Ryan's in.
She's
and,
like, it's almost as though he was stabbed, like me.
Daniel takes the opportunity to encourage Daisy home. So they get back to the street, and there's a fab shot of was it? Yeah, it wasn't today's. It was on like the ground, wasn't it? You start to see the cobbles and looking up at the Rovers, and she can't bring herself to go into this place, and we get to see
it was from above looking down.
I think there was a bit of both.
Bit of both.
I think a bit of both. Yeah. And so she kind of.
Well, she sees Crystal and she's like, "Oi, Crystal."
Yeah, and then
what's
Crystal
happened?
finds out about it. Yasmin finds Alia sitting all sad on the stairs back at home.
This was Alia's best scene of the year.
she's sitting there just in tears going,
I'm sorry, I know I'm so cynical and horrible about Alia. She's sitting on the stairs going, waiting for Gran to come home so she can see me looking sad on the stairs. And then Yasmin
closes. Hello, Alia, you're there.
No,
turn on the waterworks, Alia.
Alia's sitting there like, and here she is. Oh, Gran, I feel so bad for Ryan, poor Ryan. And then on cue, Yasmin says...
Oh, yeah, Yasmin says, oh, poor you, Alia, poor you.
And then Alia's like, yes, poor me, that's right, poor me. Somebody think of me for once. This is too much for me, Gran, I can't cope.
She's like, oh, this is all just so raw for me.
I'm sorry, I know we're really, really horrible to Alia.
Oh, come on.
It's part of our fun, isn't it?
Yes.
You gotta have fun sometimes.
When as soon as we knew that Ryan was going to be the one that was hit in the face with the acid, I was like, Alia is going to have a field day with this. She's going to be so gutted that she's not the biggest victim on the street anymore.
She's probably going to be like, oh, poor Ryan. This reminds me of when Luke was blown up. That was sad for me too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember she sat at that shrine in the middle of the bloody street?
And it reminds me of that time my dad... in the fire.
He was blown up as well.
Why does everybody who knows me get blown up? Or am I driving them away? So Daisy goes to see Ryan at the end of the episode and he can barely bring himself to look at her. She tells him about Crystal being devastated by the news, obviously, but she still wants to see him when he's ready. And he's like, oh, tell her not to bother. So he thanks Daisy for everything that she's done after the attack to help him. And she's just
he says that
it should have been me.
He says that she was one of the reasons why it's not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
And, I think on Twitter I said something about they saved each other on Monday because he ran in front of the acid, but then she wouldn't give up on him. She kept helping him, and she was... I don't know if she was getting burned as she was doing it because she wasn't attending to her wounds, or if she was touching bits that were coming off on her. I don't know, but she wouldn't stop helping him. She was there the whole time, making sure that she did everything she could.
What a trooper. Friday, Daisy goes to visit Ryan again, and he's really nervous about getting the bandages off. I don't know, I mean, I'm guessing next week, are you thinking, for the bandages to come off?
It's just so sad, just so horrible. And this happens not just to, there are so many things where your life changes in one instance. And it's never go back to how it used to be.
Yeah, he still can't handle the idea of these bandages coming off.
And I just want to also say, it's not just the aesthetics of what you look like, but the scar tissue can be very painful, and he's going to have to... it's going to tighten up, and he's going to get restriction in his movement of his neck, probably, and his face. It's going to be difficult to make expressions because scar tissue doesn't... I mean, people seem to think that
not as elastic
scars are just like a cool thing that you sometimes get, but it can be incredibly problematic, scar tissue.
So Daisy goes off after this, and she sees Alia in the cafe later and tells her about Ryan being in a lot of pain and needing her support and everything. And he's like, oh, he doesn't even know himself that he needs help. And she's like, just please, Alia, go to Ryan, go and see him. Help him get up the courage to look at his injuries, because he's going to have to face himself. He's going to have to look at himself in the mirror one day. Help him. Also
an element of, like, if I don't look, it's not happened.
Oh yeah, for sure. So Alia shows up at Ryan's bedside, and he's not happy to see her. And she's like, it's okay if you're not ready to look at your injuries yet. All in your own time. You're not weak. You're just human. And he's like, she says, please let me help you through this. I'm going to be with you every step of the way. By the time you leave here, you're going to be sick of the sight of me. So she's basically...
Like, when does that start
from? Daisy later we see her kind of building herself up to go into the bar. And then towards the end of the episode, Alia comes in and tells her, I've made the kind of thing square with Ryan, and I've agreed that I'm gonna go and see him every day, whether he wants it or not. and that's where we leave this. So
we've spoken a lot about... I can't think of what else there is to talk about.
I think we need to bring up the fact that although this Monday's episode, well, the whole story really, was fairly universally praised, wasn't it? I mean, we put a poll up on Twitter saying, did you think it was a great one, or did you think it was banging bog standard or bobbins? And like 96%, 97% or so rated it banging. And I've just read comment after comment about how fantastic an episode it was, but there is definitely an element of, has it gone too far? Was it over the top? Was it too much? When does it become misery porn, basically?
Well, I've also seen quite a few people saying, oh, I don't agree they should have done it. I wish they hadn't done it. I wasn't looking forward to it. But it was a very good episode.
Yeah, no, people have said that.
I mean, my problem is the concurrent issues-based storylines.
Well,
I just don't think there should ever be more than one in a week.
Well, was it Monday that that there was the article on the Metro about how Corrie is just layering too much misery on top of misery at the moment, and it is a bit silly, isn't it? Because in the space of, we're now 3 months in, just a quarter of the way through the year, and we've had stabbing, we've had bombing, we've had racist abuse, we've had
white supremacist
yeah
groups, we've had
and the Stevens grisly murders. It's an awful lot. Does it start to lose its effect? It hasn't yet, I don't think, but I'm not surprised that people are starting to say that this is too much. I mean, obviously, Kate Oates' era on Coronation Street, that was criticised as being too dark, but it was in a different way.
I don't feel like
it was miserable
Kate
dark
Oates,
like this.
She had the Aidan suicide storyline, which was a mental health story, which had a proven effect on people, in that you could measure the increase of people seeking help for depression and stuff. You could measure that. But I don't ever feel like the majority of Kate Oates' tenure was, let me teach you a lesson about...
No, most of the darkness around Kate Oates, most of the criticism about the darkness was the feeling stuff. And that's kind of fun darkness.
But you could say, well, you could learn something while you're also being entertained here. Mm. And so it's a wasted opportunity, but I don't agree with that. I think that we don't need to be educated all the time about really dark and horrible things that can happen.
It is fairly relentlessly miserable. Yeah. I mean, the obviously the equivalent of the feeling storyline at the moment is Stephen, because that's not miserable. Yeah, but
dark, to me, I don't find those stories miserable, really.
No.
And maybe it's because it's fantastically removed from everyday life, and I know that people are, victims of murder and stuff.
Not by hole punch usually, but
but you see, it's part of fiction that people die very often in fiction for the story to progress, and for some reason, as a collective society, we've decided that's not really a big deal and it doesn't really matter. And I can't say that it reflects well on us that we don't really care about people getting murdered.
No, but
think about a James Bond film. People dying left, right, and centre, and that's not an issues-based bloody movie, is it? About the, it only comes into play if you really want to concentrate on it. Yeah, it is dark and horrible, but it feels a bit more removed from everyday life than these issues storylines where...
And I mean, the rape as well, literally going on. The two main stories this week were somebody getting acid in the face and somebody getting raped by somebody who they thought was their best friend.
And it's dark and it feels real.
Yeah.
And it feels, both of these stories, and this story isn't just one issue story. Like I said earlier, it's two. You got acid attack and stalking, which are two different issues.
I'd like to say I want to see more light-hearted stuff, but then when they give you Brian Packham finding out he's 8% Italian as the option, it's like, well, actually, I'd rather have had more of the Daisy and Ryan aftermath.
I don't know what happened with that. We'll talk about it later, but it didn't work.
I do think I am thinking it's a little bit on the miserable side at the moment, but I still absolutely enjoyed this week's episode. I kind of wish, in a way, that the acid attack story had, taken the monopoly of the time this week. They didn't need to have all the other stories in. Because if you remember when they had the Seb murder storyline a couple of years ago, they went pretty much a whole week where every scene was related to that story, and I was wondering whether they were going to go that way with this, but they didn't. It was, once Monday's episode was out of the way, it kind of felt like it fell by the wayside a little bit. Yes, they had some scenes in it, but I was hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping that maybe some of the editing and just the general tension building greatness that was in Mondays would keep going. As it stands, Monday felt very, very separate from the rest of the week, didn't it? With all the
it did
all the blurry.
But it was just that story.
It was an event episode.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was back to normal on Wednesday, it did make it stick out a bit like a sore thumb. I mean, one of the things that Ryan Prescott has said in the interview was about this camera they use called an Alexa camera, which Gemma just looking over at R1 and didn't even wake up, which said apparently it shoots 100 frames a minute, and that let them kind of
100 frames a minute.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But that allows them to speed up, slow it down, layer audio over the top of it, giving this visceral, guttural effect. And I mean, I don't know about things like this, but it felt pretty effective to me. I thought maybe I didn't want that all week. But I think they as I say, they had to do stuff like that because they couldn't have shown it in its full-on, raw,
well, it's
grossness.
I don't know what it looks like when
shed.
your skin is being burned through by acid, and I
don't want to know.
And I don't want Coronation Street to show me.
No. Tell you what I did like. Another thing I liked about the editing. I mean, it wasn't even the editing actually. It was just the direction. All of the Rover's floor stuff. As when Daisy's crawling around, the bar area and then going underneath the flat bit. I was like, you never see down here, do you?
Look at that floor.
Look at that floor. You can eat your dinner off that.
Floor.
So yeah, I thought that was very well done.
Annie Walker never would have imagined this storyline.
She wouldn't. Come on, Bennett. She's probably turning in a grave at this, isn't she? So how do you think that this might affect Daisy in the long term? Do you think that she's going to? I mean, so far we're seeing that she's not at all bounced back from what she used to be. It's only just happened. Is this going to cause? Obviously, it's changed Ryan's life completely. Is Daisy going to be a different person now?
Don't know, but what I don't want her to do is to sort of decide everything she did before was frivolous and materialistic and pointless, because I feel like that's a bit of a betrayal of
who she is.
And I also don't think there's anything wrong.
No.
Listen, can I just say one thing, right? Nobody blinks at a man who dedicates his life to aesthetics, like art, architecture, painting, interior design, fabrics. Everyone's like, wow, what amazing. A woman dedicates her life to aesthetics as using herself as the conduit, expressing herself with makeup and fashion, or being interested in those things, and she's like a frivolous airhead.
Do you think there's any chance that she might break up?
There's no difference to me between like designing a sofa and like a nice cushion and putting them all together and designing the interiors, and putting together a really nice outfit and matching your hair and your makeup. But there's a value judgment in society between a man and a woman who are obsessed with aesthetics.
Do you think that Daisy and Daniel might break up over this?
Because I hope not, because that'd be tedious. But I'm sure it's going to happen. I can just see it. Just Daisy's going to grow closer to Ryan, and Ryan and Ali are going to have a conflict, and then Ryan's going to have to decide who he ultimately prefers, and maybe Daisy will then realise that she's trauma bonding with him, and actually she doesn't have a connection like she thought she did, but she's just super grateful that he helped her, and then she and Daniel will get back together, and Daniel will be like, let me read you my vows, okay?
We'll come back to this episode in 2 months' time and see how close you are, but that does seem pretty on the nose there. Yeah, I mean, even like on Wednesday's episode when Daniel was struggling to get Daisy away from the hospital, it felt like she was kind of removed herself. That they didn't feel like a team, did they? She was
no. She sometimes these things drive you apart.
And I was kind of thinking as well that Daniel was. Yes, he was trying to get her home because she needed to get home, but I was feeling a little bit of jealousy there between Daniel and And Ryan is like, why do you want to go and see him? You're supposed to be my wife now.
Don't forget that now Ryan and Daisy have been through something that no one else can understand, and that means something.
Yeah.
And Daniel's going to have to swallow
as much as Arliage wants to try and say, I understand exactly how you're feeling.
Daniel's going to have to swallow his pride and allow that to happen, and not make himself part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And not try to sort of grief manage.
Speaking of... I'm just trying to segue here. Grief, I suppose. We haven't even mentioned Michelle yet.
Oh, gosh. She's having an operation.
She's having an operation.
Is that like a polite way of saying that she's Botox to the...
I wonder. It's
the 9th degree?
It's understandable. You can't just get an actor back to...
I wouldn't want it to anyway. She'd just draw focus.
I would absolutely not want her there.
Let's just remind everybody that... She raised Ryan, but she's Ali's real mum.
Yeah.
So what about Ryan's real mum? Nobody's
Wendy.
Bloody mentioned her.
No, I mean she's got really nothing to do with Ryan. She birthed him.
Well then why is Michelle the centre of Ryan and Ali's universe? But
because
Wendy
she's
can
the
just
main
go and
character.
bloody bugger off and die in a ditch.
No.
In fact, it probably we tried to contact Wendy, but she died 5 years ago and nobody noticed.
I was when another thing when I heard that Ryan was going to get the acid in the face, that was actually a real worry of mine. Like, are we going to get Michelle back? But then I was kind of thinking,
no, it would be too much about her then. It'd be even worse than Alia.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, but like, oh look, here's Michelle. Whoa.
I wouldn't mind if she came back for a guest slot in this, just because it would feel natural, and I'd kind of like to see a bit of tension between her and Steve, maybe, with it.
What about between? I don't know.
It just feels. At least they had him on the phone to her today.
Don't
would it kill him? Would it kill him to get Kim Marsh to do a little voice? I mean, a video message.
Very expensive.
Because I do wonder whether. Now we are in an age where video calling it's not the norm necessarily, or not for me anyway.
It's just a massive headache and too expensive to just hire Kim Marsh for like an hour to record 5 minutes of her going, "Oh Ryan,
we've had
sorry."
We had Emily come back for a Zoom call a few years ago, and Angela Griffin came back as Fiona, didn't she? On the
if I could, have a wish, it would be that we had more phone conversations and voicemails and stuff, and I just assume that it's just too much hassle and too expensive.
What would you have liked it if they'd have said, "Oh, Michelle, my mum came and visited me, and it was all off screen"? Would that feel like that's a bit cheating, or would it feel like, oh, okay, they've acknowledged that she's come, yeah, that's normal?
Well, you could argue either way.
She's had an operation. We don't know what this operation is, and they're being purposefully vague. Because some people are saying, yeah, she's had an operation, but I think she probably could still come and see him. The fact is, we can assume that she is never going to come and see him at all.
No, she's not.
So there's only so long that this operation excuse can last. Unless maybe as part of his recovery, he's going to go over to Ireland and go and stay with Michelle for a bit.
Probably.
And then he's going to come back. But yeah, that feels like it's possible.
He's going to come back and he's going to have really long hair on one side of his face.
And we've not had his brother-ish Ali. Like, he's not in prison anymore, is he? Is he going to come and visit him?
No.
This is the problem with soap. There's just too many people who should come and visit people at certain times.
Well, this is like the interesting thing as we start to edge even closer into this weird world of AI where anything can be made up. Like, are we looking at a future where if you sign on to be in a soap, you sign off the rights to your image as the character and the right to your voice as that character?
Well, yeah, because we were just reading the other day, or weren't we, about the fact that you can now, with some programs, AI programs, replicate someone's voice exactly and have them say things in the voice of somebody without any input from that person at all. So they could technically, feed Kim Marsh's voice into this AI machine and literally have us hearing her.
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Well, no, it wouldn't. I mean, there would be a few test cases.
It's a really ethical sort of conundrum there.
Yes, there's definitely going to be a Wild West period where, it's a shaky ground and whatever, but I can imagine it becoming a standard part of soap contracts where you just, as the character of Daisy, we own your image and we own your voice, etc., etc., and you really wouldn't have a choice.
I wonder how easy it would be to accept, because, you know, would you watch an episode and hear somebody's voice over the phone? How much in the back of your head would be going, it's not them, it's just a robot?
You know, we joked in the past about what life, you know, how when we're talking about like acceptance of like gay marriage and things, and we were saying, what's our generation's gay marriage? What's going to be the thing that our generation struggles with accepting? And AI, I feel like, is going to be a big thing, because kids are going to grow up like, yeah, you can do anything, you can make anything, and anything, you can see anything and it's not real. Whereas our generation is like,
this
you
is
can
weird.
spot Photoshop straight away, so I know if something's real or not.
I know.
But I remember I've been saying for years that this is going to happen.
I mean, I'm reading a lot about ChatGPT
like
stuff
it.
and on the subreddits and everything, and people are just saying, you know, 6 months' time, a year's time, it could be a completely different landscape we're looking at. Things are moving so
It's too
fast.
quick for me.
So fast. I mean, this is why Musk is signing this letter saying paused AI development. It's
Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's creepy stuff.
It's dangerous.
Just wanted a quick mention of Christina. Didn't show up at all. Thought that was a little odd. I thought that, you know, when
she said she wasn't going to come.
Yeah, I know, but what was the point of the character of Christina if not to make a splash at the wedding? Well,
we don't
Justin
know,
was
do
the
we?
one that did.
She
that,
might
I
come
suppose.
along later.
Yeah, I mean, was the whole point of her so that people wouldn't be asking, where's her parents? Why haven't they turned up?
No,
So now we've got a reason.
Not.
But we were kind of hoping that there'd be a little bit more
I tell you what it
arguing mothers of the bride.
That you probably haven't noticed is it solidified Daisy and Jenny's relationship.
Yes, it certainly did that, and that's been fantastic. Didn't Jenny look nice in that hat?
Absolutely smashing.
And the dress, lovely.
Oh, she looked great.
Sally Ann Matthews, is it Hobbs dress?
Yes,
As Sally Ann Matthews said, very, very nice. Love it.
She looked gorgeous.
Just great fashion all around, to be honest.
Yes. We would do some more about fashion, but we're at an hour and a half just for this section.
and we've still got another big
haven't
story to come. Haven't even
this
touched
other
on Amy.
issue story.
So I'm
Shall
gonna
I get on with it?
Let's do the explicit
Right,
consent
on Monday,
warning.
Amy's looking very unhappy because the Barlows are getting ready for the wedding, and she's got this bridesmaid dress that she's supposed to be wearing, and she was very vulnerable and unhappy and exposed.
Well, that exposed, is it?
At the venue, Simon's trying to talk to her about what's going wrong, and it's like, has Adam done something? Because she's flinching when he's putting her arm around her earlier, and Amy's like, no, I'm not telling you, get lost.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. Then they didn't really stick with this. I really like Simon and Amy's relationship. And, you know, Simon's never on the show, is he, these days? But when he came back on the wedding episode, I thought, are they going to have her cousin, is it, as a confidant? And now he's puggered off again. But I really hope that they double down on this and we get to see more Simon in this storyline, because he's very underused. And this is the perfect time to give him something to do.
Tracy sees them interacting and tries to find out what's wrong, and
doesn't get anywhere.
Doesn't get anywhere with it. And later on, we see Amy as the Barlows are talking about this acid attack and reflecting on what's happened, listening to them saying about Justin and wondering, she's obviously wondering, like, am I going to get anywhere if I try to say what happened? Do people believe me, or who knows? And also that there feels like there's no justice because the Barlows are saying, you know, she told them this was going to happen and they didn't care. So she's like, well, it's already happened to me, so would they care then? Probably not. So on Wednesday, she's still shaken, and she talks to her parents. She said, some men can think they can do whatever they want to a woman. Later on, we see Summer using Aaron's phone. She sees he sent a message to Amy saying, can't we just put this behind us? And she demands to know what's going on, so he tells her that they slept with each other. He says, we went back to the flat, we both got drunk, we slept with each other, we both regret it, but we were on a break. And Summer's heartbroken, and she's like, oh, you've both been laughing at me, you're my she's my best friend, you're my boyfriend, how could you? And he's like, I'm just really sorry. So she gets mad and she orders him out, and she goes to the Victoria Garden. She sees Amy sitting on Martha's bench, and she's like, oh, should we share some chips? And she throws the chips into into her
There
face
has
going,
been,
let's share.
That's like
my
two,
man.
but two lots of chips in as many
Chips
weeks,
are going
isn't
everywhere on Coronation Street. They say that they're like, eco-friendly, but think about all those potatoes that died.
Those Weatherfield pigeons are dining in
they're all waddling
luxury.
around like a fat little bunch of don't know, chickens. Amy's like, no, it wasn't like that. And Summer does, I don't care, and she storms off.
Yeah, Summer just completely believes that Amy was just as complicit in this.
Well, why would she, at the moment, she's got no other information to go off. Amy comes home, she's very shaken, she's silent, and Tracy says, what's going on? Are you falling out with Aaron? And this is when she comes out with, he raped me. And she explains what happened. She said she was passed out, she was drunk, she didn't consent. It's the first time she let her guard down since she was spiked. She thought she was with somebody she trusted. And Tracy's asking, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't this? Are you sure it wasn't that? And
Tracy wants to tell Steve.
Amy says, no, I can't tell him. Can you do it for me? So Tracy tells Steve, and Steve immediately wants to kill Aaron. But he gives Amy a big hug, and she says, I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I didn't want you to go and find him and do something stupid. And Steve says, we need to go to the police. So Tracy and Amy go to the police station, and Amy says, I want to report a rape. So she gets sat down in the soft interview room, and it's just her, Tracy, and... It
was a male police officer at first,
he says,
wasn't it?
I don't know if we can get you a female officer, but we'll do our best, but you need to tell us what's happened.
And they do.
They do get her a female officer. Meanwhile,
it all kind of tied into this overarching narrative, which I want to talk about later, of Weatherfield police are not that great at the moment.
Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so Aaron's been able to convince Summer to talk to him, and he tells her his side of the story. He says, look, I didn't fancy Amy. We were just both drunk. She was all flirty with me. We knew it was wrong, but we did it anyway. And it's done now, and it was just a silly mistake. Meanwhile, Amy's being recorded on camera explaining in detail the story to this female officer, saying, the last thing I remember, I passed out, I flopped on the bed, and then when I woke up, it took me a while to even work out what had happened. And I had to get the morning after pill because I asked him if he wore a condom, and he said he didn't remember, or he didn't. I was trying to act normal, so nobody would find out. But now I know Aaron's going to say I was exaggerating, and he's going to say that I wanted it, and he's going to twist everything. And we see the camera cutting to Aaron telling Summer just exactly the same stuff.
Yeah,
like,
so
Amy's just ashamed of herself. She's lying. She wanted it, and so did I. But she's going to make out that she's.
They employed the same technique here as they did a couple of weeks ago when they had Alia with Max in prison, and then it was cutting to Spider and Griff in prison, wasn't it?
I feel like they needed more time between those two.
I think that this scene would have been more effective if I wasn't thinking I've just seen this recently.
This technique.
Yeah, that's those scenes as well. It was kind of. There was triumph in there, wasn't there? Because the Alia scene was her basically standing up to Max and saying, I'm not going to forgive you. And we were like going, yeah, go out, Alia. And the Spider and Griff one was the like, what was it even about? Was it a bit about him?
Well, he was just getting the information out of him and then saying,
and tricking Griff into
sucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas this was just two alternative.
Yeah, and it was an important scene. We knew there was nothing new here.
It's very interesting as well that Coronation Street hasn't decided to make this a mystery. Because they could very well have made it so we didn't actually know.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I suppose the new here was seeing just how cruel and the doubling down on the massive lie that Aaron was. Like, at one point in the story, I was thinking, like, is he gonna admit it? Is he gonna realise that he has done something wrong? Is he gonna try and apologise for it? But we get to see a really horrible side to him this week, don't we? Where he's just making up these massive lies about Amy.
I don't know. I think he's justifying in his mind the fact that he doesn't think of himself as a rapist, and He's like, well, no, of course that wasn't what happened because that's not who I am.
I mean, there was some truth in what he was saying because Amy was drunk and she was flirty with him. They both were. But I think he's realised that he needs to exaggerate somewhat.
I don't know how much self-awareness he's got.
There's definitely a little bit of sympathy for him on Friday's episode. And there's even, if you look around online, you get to see, a lot of people are saying that he didn't know what was going on. I don't buy into that personally.
This is the issue with this story, with the convictions of rape in general, is that you can't see inside someone's head. And unfortunately for Aaron, it's irrelevant as to whether he thought he knew what he was doing, because it doesn't make any difference as to what his perception of the situation was. Rape is non-consensual sex, and the only person who can consent to it is Amy. So even if it doesn't even matter if he was hallucinating or completely 100% convinced, or he had, it doesn't even matter if he had a written bloody will and testament or like a signed legal document that said, I will have sex with you forever, because you can revoke that as soon as you want and it's the end of it. No more consent. It doesn't make any difference, but Aaron doesn't seem to understand this. No,
I do think though that he knows that if he errs for a second, that he's gonna be finished. At the moment, so he has to say to him, definitely she was up for it.
It's not about to him the philosophical question of did she consent and was I wrong? It's how can I rescue myself from this situation?
That's it. It is self-rescue.
He's not worried about the actual truth of the situation, and he's probably it's not going to benefit him at all to dwell on it for 5 seconds, because all he's concerned with is avoiding getting into trouble.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder as well how much he has been able to convince himself that these lies are actually the truth. Because there definitely lies in there, and the more you say it to yourself, the more you go,
well, especially if you're drunk,
she did.
And your memory's fuzzy already, and you're basing your perception on you're basing your memory of the night on your self-perception. Like, well, of course I didn't do that because I would never do that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, after this interview is finished, the officer says, "Okay, thank you for all this information. It's going to be very tricky to secure a conviction, so we need evidence. So we need you to help us. So you're going to have to give us your phone, and we're going to have to go through everything on your phone, and then we'll go from there." And Amy's not very keen on this, but she gives it to them anyway. So Summer hears Aaron's story, and she says, "You leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you," because she's upset because she feels like she's been cheated on.
She kind of makes that. She's like Saki and says, "Oh, I'm sure Amy's at a loose end tonight.
Well,
Why don't you
go to her?"
She still
blames them both. Yeah. Tracy and Amy arrive at number 1, and Steve's like, "I'm going to go and talk to Aaron," and Amy says, "No, listen. I was told I've got the right to remain anonymous, and I do not want anyone to find out this has happened to me. I need you to shut up because I don't want to be." She doesn't want to be the talked about. She doesn't want to be pitied. She doesn't want to be the gossip of the street. Well, yeah, because she's been made a victim twice over, because she's been raped, and then she has to have everybody know that. There's a lot of weird guilt and shame connected to being a victim of any crime.
Yeah, I mean there isn't anyone quite like Norris on the street at the moment, but I'm sure there'd be some people that would say, well, she got pregnant when she was just a gym slip mum, and
I wouldn't even care even if they. It's not even that. It's just the literal fact that people know that this happened to her is too much for Amy.
Oh yeah, that is as well. But I think that some people
before you even start pointing fingers about whose fault it was,
there would definitely be some people who think I think that she was up for it. I think that she's just in denial.
Well, Michael, there are people that watched the same episode that we watched and still came to that conclusion.
Yeah, that is true.
This is the thing. Like, I understand in a rape case like this, it is he said, she said, and who can say? There's no evidence. But people watched it happen and still came away going, "Oh, Amy's fault." My mind is boggled, honestly. So
it was very clearly
at the end of the episode, Aaron gets arrested. Amy and Steve watch him as he's being taken away, and Steve's like, "Yeah," and he like points at him and he says, "You think this is bad? Wait till you go to prison." And then we see Abby coming out at number 13, seeing him being driven off, going, "Aaron, where are you going?" So on Friday, Steve's trying to talk to Amy, but she doesn't. She's like not wanting to talk.
Yeah, she's mad that she wants to keep it quiet, and he's broadcast it to the whole street basically. Although, fortunately, I don't think somebody
for once.
Yeah.
So Aaron's been released, and he's desperately trying to explain himself to Abby, but he lies and said it was a random girl. It was a one-night stand. She's regretting it, so she's lied and told the police I raped her. Don't tell anybody. And he goes back working at the garage, and Tracy's completely stunned to see this, that he's working. And she goes and has it out with him. And he's like, "I'm not a rapist. I didn't do anything." Michael's written.
He's written on that written. He's not a racist. He's probably not one of those either.
No.
But we're not on that story.
We're not talking about that now.
So 2023 really has been the year of racists and rapists, hasn't it?
Steve comes in and pulls Tracy away, and not before telling Aaron he hopes he rots in prison. But we also get to see Amy and Summer having a confrontation in Victoria Street with Amy. You know, Summer's like, "Oh, you slept with my boyfriend," and then Amy's like, he raped me, and Summer
believes her.
To her credit,
yeah,
it's like, "I'm so sorry, Amy."
Well, at first she doesn't.
Well, why would you?
I was completely expecting this to go down the route, and there's still scope for it to do it.
If you're with a man who somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, your boyfriend raped me," and you go, "Yes, sounds like him," why are you with him?
Yeah, it make. I was expecting
that would be a weird reaction.
I was expecting this to be Summer and Aaron versus Amy and nobody. It still could be, but I really did, for as long as it lasts, appreciated that Summer was a good friend to Amy.
Yeah. She hasn't heard Aaron's side yet, but she believes Amy. Why would Amy lie?
Well, no, Aaron's side was that Amy was up for it.
Yeah, but she hasn't heard his rebuttal, I mean.
No, she hasn't spoken to him since the arrest.
She doesn't need to speak to him. She just says, "Okay, I believe you."
Yeah.
At the station later, Amy's gone back because they're interviewing her now based on what they've heard from
her phone.
From Aaron, and also from her phone.
Yeah.
And so it's DS Swain.
Mm-hmm.
And another lady who's the PCUFIUAB or something.
Something like that.
She's police protection or something. I can't remember.
I
don't understand why she didn't have a chaperone or her mum there, but I bet she's glad she didn't have a mum there. Because they start talking about some very, very personal things.
More. Yeah.
I know, but you think she'd have a solicitor, but she obviously doesn't think she needs one. Why would you think you needed one anyway?
Why would you need one? She hasn't done anything wrong. There's no.
I don't know.
She's
Michael.
not been accused of anything.
I don't know, but listen, I just think that you should have a chaperone. You have a chaperone for lots of things.
But she's in a
vulnerable
vulnerable
state, isn't she? You can have a chaperone if you get a
she?
smear test. Why wouldn't you have a chaperone for being interviewed about being raped? So anyway, the police are saying, "Look, we've gone through your phone, and there's a thing here where you're texting your boyfriend at the time, Jacob Hay, and you're saying to him that you got totally wasted in a club and had sex when you were drunk with him."
I didn't know what to think about this.
Amy?
Have I forgotten this? Have I blanked this out of my mind? Or have they just made up and retconned that Amy is the sort of person that would have a shack in a club?
It doesn't matter what sort of person she is.
I don't
All that matters is what happened.
I don't see Amy doing that.
Well, she says... And they're like, "Oh, you..." And also here, there's a picture of you going out for lunch with Aaron the day after you say he raped you. So what's that about? And she's like, she tries to, she explains. And then she ends up back at home. DS Swain comes around and she says, "There's just not enough evidence. It's just he said, she said." And I think they also, they're saying the defence are going to go through this and they're going to see all this stuff.
Makes me wonder whether anything would be different for Amy if she hadn't handed her phone over and it had just been her account of it. Because you're right, the evidence on the phone, the shag in a club evidence, is kind of used to suggest you're the sort of person that would... Well, what does that suggest? That you would have sex when you're drunk?
It's consensual sex when you're drunk. But this is the thing.
I would think that quite a lot of people do
but
that.
listen, and also... she could still have had sex with Jacob, say, or say she had sex with Aaron when she was drunk, and then the next day she had sex with Aaron when she was drunk, but she fell asleep. That still doesn't mean that she consented when she was asleep. It doesn't make any difference. And it's also, it's the same thing as saying, oh, you've had sex once, so you can have sex a million times. And if one of them was against your will, then, you know, the other 9...
Cancel them out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you consented once, so therefore you can't revoke it. Because you're a slut.
Anyway,
that's what they're saying.
There's just no...
But on the other end of the
evidence.
spectrum, do we want to live in a world where somebody says, he raped me, and they say... okay, put him in prison. We don't want to live in that world either. I don't know what the solution is.
No.
We know in this situation what happened, but only Amy and Aaron know.
Well, Amy doesn't. Well, Amy does know, but she doesn't remember it.
Well, she knows she didn't consent. She wasn't away.
She knows she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't know exactly what happened. Probably for the best, but she knows that she didn't consent. What?
I'm not moaning at you. It's just the situation because it's as far as I'm concerned, this is an unsolvable situation. The only thing I can think of is that we need to teach people. But the thing is, though, right? We teach consent. Oh, he, you know, obviously it didn't work on Aaron. He doesn't understand. I don't know. Does he understand? I don't know. He's got plausible deniability that he didn't get that this is wrong because you know. There are thousands of people that also don't understand this is wrong. But there was a storyline where we had them being taught consent specifically, explicitly. We watched it happen. There was a whole story about consent at school where they had special lessons where somebody wrote consent on a board, and God knows what happens after that.
That was just last year, wasn't it?
So how did he fail to learn? I mean, I guess he didn't go to Weatherfield High.
Yeah.
What's happening? What can be done?
I wonder how...
I just don't think this is... and it feels really bad because this is such a bad lesson to teach young people, girls and boys, that nothing that can be done about it. What can be done? Nothing. I don't know. It's so frustrating and upsetting. Anyway, so Amy's like, well, great, thanks so much. Tracy's fuming. Swain leaves. And Amy says, I should never have said anything. I should have just... nobody would believe me. I should have known it. Swain goes and tells Aaron, and he's like, brilliant, yeah. And Swain's like, anyways, bye then, look after yourself.
Aaron, you kind of see, there's a shot of him from behind, and you can just about see the side of his face that breaks into a bit of a grin as Swain's leaving. And I don't think it's an evil, ha ha ha, I got away with it grin necessarily. But there is an element of that in there, because, as I say, I think deep down he knows he's really done something wrong here.
Yeah.
Thinks perhaps they're right, maybe he's done something wrong, but it doesn't matter now because the charges have been dropped or whatever.
So Summer comes over and she says, I know what you've been accused of. And he says, look, it wasn't true. The police don't believe her either. They've dropped the charges, so I didn't do it. And Summer doesn't believe him and she heads off, sees Amy, who's gutted, and they have a hug, which I thought was very sweet. And then in the pub later, Steve and Tracy overhear Abby telling Ronnie, for some reason...
Uncle Ronnie's back.
...that Aaron's staying with her, and it's great because her useless husband is in Germany. She doesn't say that bit, but... Tracy cannot bear to listen to this. She leaves, and Abby's like, hey, have a drink with me. And Tracy's like, no, bog off.
Yeah, and this is confusing to Abby, isn't it? Because as far as Abby's... she knows that Aaron has been accused of raping someone, but she doesn't know it's Amy. She doesn't know it was Amy.
She doesn't know it was Amy.
Yeah, so she's like, what's going on? And I'm hoping that next week Abby's going to go and find Tracy and say, you're right, mate, what's wrong?
This is Abby's perspective. This poor boy has been taken in under her wing. He was beaten by his dad. And his mum's died.
Yes.
He's got an eating disorder and diabetes. He's alone in the world, basically. And he's vulnerable and she feels a deep affection for him.
Well, she said that he reminded her of Seb in today's episode, didn't she? What was it that he'd said?
I don't know, but he's a victim in her eyes because he's been accused of something he didn't do. This girl, you know, it's very easy to imagine some evil, you know, girl who's trying to take advantage, or, you know, Abby's been around people who are vicious and don't care about the people. I'm sure she can imagine a million girls who are like
Well,
this.
she's probably been, falsely accused of things in the past as well, hasn't
Yeah,
she?
that's true. So it's perfectly plausible to her that this guy who's already been kicked, into the ground by life is now suffering and needs her help.
Yeah.
So Abby then catches Aaron with his bag of stuff because he's leaving town because he's like, I'll be alright, I've looked after myself for ages, I can't stick around here with everybody thinking all this stuff about me.
He's got the classic Coronation Street, I'm leaving with all my worldly goods in this one hold all and a little plastic bag.
You can tell he's moving and he's not been fired because he doesn't have a box with a plant in it.
I just don't understand. Whenever anybody leaves to start a new life, they can literally fit everything in like a suitcase, can't they?
I know, but
whereas we needed a whole moving van.
And a half.
And a half, yeah.
Well, if you had to move, if I kicked you out, you probably could put everything in a bag.
I don't have as much as you, I'll admit that, but I think I'd probably fill more space than Aaron did.
Yeah, because you've got 4 sets of bongos.
I do have my bongos.
For a console that you haven't plugged in for about 10 years.
That is true.
15 years, actually, I'd say. Right, so she looks in his eyes and she says, Aaron, tell me the truth. Did you rape this girl? And he says, I swear I didn't. So she says, look, don't go. Stay home with me, play Jenga and eat fish fingers. Or we could make a Jenga out of fish fingers.
I was thinking that, yeah. Frozen fish fingers, I was thinking, would make an excellent Jenga tower.
They wouldn't they? Can you imagine the smell after an hour though?
Although, with the breadcrumbs, that's probably a bit too much friction.
It's friction, yeah. It'd drag them out. We need to test this.
We need to test out fish finger Jenga. Or maybe we get one of our listeners to do it because we don't have fish fingers in this house.
We don't have fish fingers in this house, and also I don't think it's a very good look to be decadently playing games as Jenga while people are starving.
If you ate them afterwards, it's okay.
It's the sort of thing that
does it work with chicken goujons? Because I'd have that.
Goujons aren't shaped in a Jenga fashion, Michael. Right, so anyway.
What?
Amy comes across Tracy, who's doing a bit of design work on a flyer.
It's Steve that finds her doing this.
Steve finds her making a flyer going, police are decriminalising rape. And he says, look, you can't go around saying this. Everyone's going to see that it's Amy. If they see you putting this up...
Yeah, they're going to put 2 and 2 together.
Just don't do anything. Amy comes down and has a go at her, saying, look, no, this is ridiculous. Please don't do this. Just leave it. She goes back upstairs and Steve says to Tracy, you've got to do what Amy wants. You can't do this. Oh, I forgot to say earlier, there was a bit where Aaron, when Tracy confronted Aaron in the garage, she looked down at the wrench that was on the car as if...
Did she?
Yeah, as if
I
to
missed
be like,
that.
I'm gonna smack you in the head.
Oh.
I've done it once, I'll do it again. And to be honest, the guy I did it to the first time hadn't even done as bad stuff as you've done.
I found Tracy being strangely restrained.
Yes, she is.
With this.
Honestly,
with everything. I even like her reaction to Amy saying that she's raped. I was expecting a bit more from Tracy.
I know, she's being sensible though. This is the correct reaction.
This is mature Tracy we're seeing now.
I don't know how she didn't just, if you're sitting there looking into your daughter's eyes and she's saying, this guy raped me, how do you not run out of the door, run to where he is and just beat him?
Well, that's what Steve wanted to do, isn't it?
How do you not? I wouldn't. I don't know what I would do. I'd have to be put in a room and locked.
It's thinking about your daughter's wishes, which is to remain anonymous.
I know. He knows he did it though. It's not like he's wondering who it is.
I am finding it interesting that Amy wants it to be anonymous. I kind of just assumed it would all come out, but nobody would believe her, and it'd be everyone's on Aaron's side because he's so lovely and handsome. But her wanting to stay quiet about it, I think, is very much
in her character.
Yeah, definitely. But I didn't realise before this week that it was. But absolutely, Amy wouldn't want this at all. She just wants it to go away.
Nobody would.
She doesn't want. No, not a lot.
I know, but
some people would want to say he raped me.
I know, but a lot of women wouldn't actually, and that's part of the issue of trying to get convictions.
So at the end of
after dark,
this is a great little
Tracy
scene
goes to the back room of the florist and she's printing out these leaflets, which are actually very well designed.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I thought they were very striking.
Probably got ChatGPT to do it.
They were very no, the layout, the design, they were very, they had good
bit of desktop
graphic
publishing
design. And so she said, it says, rapists are getting away with it. Less than 1% of reported rapes result in a conviction. Tell the police, tell your MP, take rape seriously.
So she's going against Steve's advice, and it looks like she's going to be doing a little bit of postering next week. But I mean, it's not going to accuse Aaron, no. Maybe she forgot to put that at the end. She's going to have to scribble it in small print at the end. P.S. Aaron raped Amy.
This is difficult, isn't it? Everybody, I feel like there's going to be a week where everyone's like, what is this about? What has happened? I saw Aaron being taken away in a car. But
nobody saw it. Just Abby.
Well, yeah, I know. It's going to come out. I think there's going to be a week of speculation, and then it's going to come out it was Aaron. And then it's going to be like, Abby's going to be like, oh, it was some strumpet in town. And then Tracy's probably going to say, it wasn't, it was Amy. And then there'll be this conflict between Tracy and Abby because obviously they're friends.
Yeah.
And Abby's not going to have a reason to believe Amy over Aaron. She's just not going to have a reason because she sympathises with him and she doesn't believe. Why would you... I thought it was going to be Summer who was going to be fighting Aaron's corner for him, but it definitely feels like it's going to be Abby, which is really difficult. I mean, this is a bit like the Abby versus Imran and Toya story last year. It's like, oh, I'm on both of your sides. But in that situation, I think we were supposed to be on Abby's side.
Yeah.
In this situation, we're supposed to be on Amy's side. Now, this is fascinating because this is one of the things that we were complaining about and saying this is a clear example of how old Corrie kind of beats new Corrie or current Corrie, because current Corrie's scared of demonising popular characters or having them make mistakes that make them look bad. And this is a bad look. Defending a rapist is a bad look. But Abby's an incredibly popular character. And I think in the long run, she's going to come out of this not being scathed by this because I think she's going to realise that she was wrong. I
think as soon as she realised, it's not like she thinks that he is a rapist, and I think that if she finds out
this
what
will be
happens,
the test. Like if she finds out what happened,
but how would she find out?
But listen, let me finish. And she says, "No, what if Aaron admits it?" And then she says, "Look, it was a mistake. Why is Amy trying to ruin this boy's life for a mistake?" It was a rape. You weren't even conscious. It didn't hurt you. You didn't even know it was happening.
I don't see them giving Abby that dialogue.
I don't know. People would say that, and I don't see why they couldn't give that to Abby to say. Because sometimes people on a show like Coronation Street have to say things that are wrong but are a widely held belief, so that those beliefs could be held up to the light and we can all examine them and decide whether or not they're correct. You can't tell a story like this without some really uncomfortable conversation where someone's going to be wrong.
I think that that's the sort of thing that like Beth might say, possibly.
Yeah, but what you're doing then is you're not giving that credibility. And that means that it's not going to be challenged properly. Everyone's going to dismiss Beth no matter what she says. If somebody like Abby says it, people are going to be watching it going, hang on though, that's what I think. That's not wrong.
Well, I just think you can't. I think it's clever that they brought Abby into this.
I think it's irresponsible to not use this opportunity to properly talk about what people say and do and how they act and so you can challenge it and you can help people to see why those are harmful thoughts and beliefs. And I think that lots of people would call themselves a good person and still come out with that. I think there are loads of women who, even women and men, would say, if you weren't awake and you didn't even really know it was happening, it's just a mistake that happened. You got to move on with your life.
It's just gross,
disgusting,
isn't it?
But I'm telling you, it's not. I don't think I don't think that would be an unpopular conclusion. But obviously, it is wrong.
Yeah.
because she wasn't that awake to consent. Although I will say one thing, it just did feel quite clunky every time somebody said, especially Amy, who says, "But I didn't give my consent." It just feels like, yes.
We know it's a consent story. We get it.
They have to use that particular language because it really is very clear and precise about what happened. There's no question about what she's trying to convey here. It's not flowered up.
Yeah.
But it just feels incredibly plain and on the nose.
Public. What's it called?
PSA.
Yeah, PSA, exactly. So do you think that Monday's episode is going to start with a street full of posters?
Yeah, probably.
I think that Tracy's going to be putting them up overnight.
In Harry Potter when there were all those wanted posters everywhere.
What, the Sirius Black ones?
Yeah. I want Corey to get really uncomfortable with this. I want people to be challenged. This storyline could be really a great, really thought-provoking and important story that could actually make people watching it realise where they might have a gap in their understanding of what consent really is. I
hope so. I do hope so.
But again, you wanted to bring up this thing about the police.
Yeah, because this is the other thing that's coming out of this. I don't know whether I'd realised this completely until I saw a post that Morgan had put on our Facebook group today, and but he brought up the point that Coronation Street really seems to be quite anti-police at the moment, and there's quite a few stories where Weatherfield police are being made to look either incompetent or just really shady and siding with criminals. And I get that sometimes that can happen for the drama in one story, and it's like, here's a cliffhanger, the police don't believe them. But are we going somewhere? Are we going to eventually, is this going to all join together into one big story that is Weatherfield police are corrupt?
I don't think they're corrupt. I don't think that's the point.
Well, or just use it. Because, we've got the Daisy storyline where more than one officer, including Craig, has been clearly, they've said they've not been able to do anything, but they've come across to me as being unsympathetic and uncaring about Jay-Z's advice. Yeah.
I don't want to live in a world where the police arrest you for a thought crime or what you might do.
No, I get that. I totally get that. It just feels like there's an awful lot of story where it's like, the police don't believe me, the police are useless.
Justin crossed the line and his activity was criminal, but Daisy just didn't have enough proof. And I don't want to live in a world where you can get in trouble when there's no proof against you. But it is really interesting that both these stories are about a woman being victimised by a man and not being able to prove it, which to me isn't so much a story about the police being incompetent or corrupt, but it's about the system of justice and about how it's set up to ignore these issues, and anything that's too complicated or takes a bit too much thought just gets completely ignored. Why is it possible that we can work out how to bring people to justice who are coercively controlling people and domestically abusing people, but we can't work out how to do the same thing for stalking and rape? Because to me, coercive control is also very difficult, but it falls into a certain pattern of behaviour that's easy to recognise a pattern of. The same thing, I think, with what Aaron's done and what Justin did. There's a clear pattern. And also, the other side of the coin is, I bet you there are loads of people like Justin who do go around stalking, who never do anything violent or dangerous. They're just a pain in the bum.
But do you think that it could be going anywhere about the police? Because even the other year we had the racial profiling story, and in that one as well as this one, Craig hasn't been the automatic hero on the side of right, going, oh yes, well, I've got my corrupt colleagues. He's been just as bad as the others. Like, Craig was made to look stupid the other week when he was saying, there's nothing we can do. I'm really interested to see, because he's not been in it at all this week, what's his reaction to what's happened with Daisy. He could have possibly, or maybe he couldn't because he was just following the rules, but is he going to feel like he could have done something to stop this happening? What's Jess doing in this? Because she was looking like Officer Jess was on Daisy's side, but we've not seen her since that episode 2-3 weeks ago, and now we've got it with Amy. It just feels the police are always a bit rubbish, aren't they?
Well, they have to be for story purposes.
They have to be a bit rubbish at getting the murderers get away with it for a little bit for story purposes, but it just feels like there is an anti-police sentiment in this at the moment, which we don't necessarily have in this country, but I know exists in lots of other places around the world.
I think it's growing more and more because of what women experienced with sexism, both from police and on the, being in the police from other officers, and the disrespect. There have been so many awful cases of that those police officers that took photos of those poor dead girls and sent pictures of them around, or like WhatsApp groups where they had a man and like a fellow officer in there that they all called the rapist, who turned out to be actually a rapist. I think what you're seeing here is Coronation Street reflecting this anxiety in society in general, where on the whole, I would say, with a few sort of obvious exceptions, in this country, we've respected the police as a profession and kind of expected a certain level of professionalism and behaviour from them, which has been shattered over the past few years in quite spectacular fashion. And suddenly the scales are falling from people's eyes, and we're realising that actually there are things that need to be changed about the police. Yeah. And it's not a coincidence to me, and I don't think, I'm not surprised at all to see that crimes that women are generally a victim of seem to be more difficult to prosecute. Is that really such a weird concept when, generalising, but it's not untrue, the justice system's created by men. The crimes that women experience at the hands of men seem to be the ones that we have such trouble with trying to work out, I don't know, is that crime? I'm not sure how to prove it. Is that coincidence? I don't think so. I think it's a symptom of the fact that this justice system hasn't been created to protect women specifically. I don't know. It's... Yeah, I know it's a difficult thing to think about. But my point is, I don't think that the police are corrupt. I don't know why you say that, because that implies that they're being bought off. I don't think Aaron's buying them off. No. I don't think that. Just maybe not corrupt. Just incompetent. I don't think they're incompetent. I think they're struggling with a system that doesn't that they're working within a system that has limitations. Yeah, and I suppose the limitations are such that there's nothing they can do. The Crown Prosecution Service is the ones that decide whether they take a case to court or not. To be fair as well, and I just all want to be fair to them too, and also to Amy's experience. They haven't said this, but they're probably thinking, Amy, you're not going to get necessarily your win here, and you're going to be dragged through the court. You want to be anonymous, but you're going to have to go to court and say all these things, and so you're going to have to sit there while somebody tells you that you had sex with your boyfriend in a bar when you were drunk, and therefore you're always up for it. Are you prepared to go through that? And I don't agree that women should have to go through that, because that's bloody awful, but that's what the system is. But the opposite, again, I'm going to keep pointing it out, is that we live in a world where where anyone can say he did it, and then it's like, well, who would lie? Get him in prison. We can't be naive about it. I just wanted to say, what's the balance? I don't know. I suppose on the side of the police aren't completely useless in Weatherfield, generally these detectives, the lady detectives, and they are pretty much always ladies, aren't they, are seen to be good at their job and smart. Yeah. Abney. Yeah. McKinnon. Yeah. Swain. Yeah. There's others I can't remember. They're all very no-nonsense women, aren't they? Yes, they are. It's more the kind of the plods, if you like, that are a little bit useless in this. I mean, there's Spider as well, isn't there? And with him, it's just like Spider's going to be like, really? I'm going to go undercover and work. I'm going to get a job working at the garage and see if I can get Owen to confess what he'd done. In a way, I'd quite like a story where Spider is the one that like roots out the corrupt heart of Weatherfield police station. I know, but I wouldn't mind it if that was a story.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah, but Michael, the greater story is that this system is created.
Yeah, I know, I get it.
That's more interesting to me than these bunch of people all sitting around with their thumbs up their asses, playing on, like, I don't know, Goblin King on their phones.
I just like there to be a story that gets all of these iconic to us fans. DSs together.
I want to see them. I want to see them unite for justice.
We don't ever see them team up, do we?
No.
There's at least 4 of them.
They work different shifts, Michael.
There's at least 4 of them at the moment. These named but ultimately not regular characters, sergeants, detective sergeants. It was just like a team up. It'd be like the Avengers, wouldn't it?
I was thinking Sailor Moon, but yeah. Justice.
Yeah. Are you kind of overall though? Would you say you're still enjoying this storyline and where it's going?
It feels like a scab, doesn't it? That you just want to itch. It feels like, you know, that the enjoyable feeling that you get when you start to pick at something and you're like, the pain. You know,
yeah,
it's satisfying.
I'm glad that it's finally got its time in the spotlight, because I have been complaining recently on the podcast that since the rape actually happened, the story's kind of not really done anything. So it's had its time now, and I'm enjoying it. I think Elma Vaney is doing a cracking job. She's super. I'm actually not hating Summer during it as well. I think James Craven is doing fantastically. Everybody involved is doing a really, really fab job. So I'm, as uncomfortable as it is to watch, I'm feeling positive about it.
So I mean, yeah, and the statistics, you know, I'm just always very aware of the fact that we're talking about the storyline, and it's all very hypothetical to us because I haven't experienced this, but 1 in 4 women have experienced rape or been sexually assaulted as adults. So there are a lot of people listening to this for this is a very real thing. But again, I just want to say that there are some women who've gone through this who have the attitude of, well, this is just what happens to women. And that's really sad. And you know, sometimes even victims of the crime will be like, I don't understand why this big fuss is being made because I just got over it. You know, but that's not the world. You know, we want people to be able to, I don't know, it's just really frustrating, but I just want to, you know, I guess my point is that victims of a crime or survivors of a crime aren't always going to have a hive mind about how they think about what happened to them and what they think should happen in the future, and their perception and their experiences are different.
Tell you what could have been interesting with this. You know, all the stuff with the story with Faye that's going on at the moment, which has, you know, been quite nicely been put on the sidelines at the moment. But whenever anything kind of big with her happens, I'm always thinking, well, where's Anna? Why hasn't she come back? As far as we know, Anna isn't living a million miles away. If she was if she like came back to the street for a couple of months, it'd be interesting to have her kind of interacting with Amy. Obviously, she was raped by Phelan, but that was another story which was very much, oh, is it rape? Did she consent to it?
Exactly.
And she kind of invited her. How did it work? He blackmailed her. Yeah.
And so you've still got people saying that wasn't rape.
Yeah, so to have her perspective and having Anna teaming up with Amy would be quite interesting.
I think there's a point to be made also that Coronation Street hasn't really done very many rape storylines because they are very horrific.
But I mean, there is Toya on the street, isn't there?
Toya's rape was probably one of the most horrific ones that's ever going to be on Coronation Street, but it was also very atypical in that it was sort of you know, an attack in the dark by somebody that she didn't know that well. I was thinking about
Toya's been thrown under a bus so much over the past 6 months. It wouldn't surprise me for her to come along and say, rape? You call that rape? I'll tell you what rape is, love.
Whatever. The other person as well I'm thinking of is Mary.
Yes, of course.
Mary, who gave birth to her son.
To Jude.
In a very non-consensual...
That's interesting. Situation. And Mary is kind of close to the family in that Mary and Tracy are friends. So that could be interesting, that if Amy has got someone to confide in there.
And another thing that I'm wondering is, are we going to hear about somebody else's experience that they had in a leave of absence from the show. Well, we didn't see the character on screen for a number of years for whatever reason. Are they going to say, I've never told anybody this, but...
There could well be, what has Abby been raped at some point in the past?
That could be an interesting...
No, when she was high or something.
Well, I don't know, but that could be an interesting thing where she, suddenly realises that she's been protecting a rapist.
Maybe.
And she could be like, you're no better than the scum that used to prey on me when I was out of my mind.
Yeah.
I would have done anything for drugs, but you people, you think, that could really be quite painful for Abby.
Shall we move on? We got
this
loads
is too much stuff.
It's all right. We're on to more, the lighter stories now. Just Stephen's murdering next.
Killer.
Lord of
Honestly,
the Underworld.
This is the light relief for this week.
It really is, isn't it?
The serial killer story. On to brighter things.
I mean, not a whole lot particularly. So on Wednesday...
Can people not understand that if you're going to go Coronation Street is too dark, you can't use the serial killer to demonstrate it, because it can get worse. It can get so much worse than just somebody hitting somebody on there with a hole punch.
They're talking a bit about Carla in the factory on Wednesday, and Sean's been to see her, and saying that she's doing okay, and she's kind of hasn't spoken about Stephen being in charge or anything. We know that Stephen has cancelled the American order with Owen and Angelique at this point, but he's a bit evasive about this at this point until he's forced to confront it when Michael spots on his calendar that there are no phone calls booked in to speak to them. Which is a bit
this was a bleak insight into the world of business where every phone call's put on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, is that how it works?
How boring.
If you're going to phone somebody, is it got like...
Got to put it down, I'm having a phone call. This reminds me of like...
if I was Stephen, I'd have just said, mentioned them.
I don't write everything down. You'll notice also there's no room on there for bowel movements. I can assure you I'm not constipated.
Anyway, Michael's confused by this, and he tells Sarah at first, doesn't he? And Sarah, of course, knows the exact reason why there's no meeting scheduled.
She doesn't know that the reason there isn't a meeting is because Stephen's being blackmailed by
but
Rufus.
He does know that he's pulled out of the deal, that Stephen's pulled out of the American deal, and Sarah's like, yes, go on, Stephen, tell them why, because she's like, I'm not coming up with an excuse for this. So Stephen says, oh, well, it was them that pulled out. He switches it round and blames Carla just to kick the boot in a little bit more. They're saying they're not confident about going into business with us when Carla's in a mental institution in a psychiatric ward.
They have a big meeting. He tells everybody this. There's also, I can't remember if it was this week or last week, when everyone's speculating about what it is that you do when you've been you're in a, what do they call it?
I can't remember.
Something
very un-PC.
I don't know the correct term that they would use, a healthcare facility. and Sarah seems to forget that she was sectioned.
I know.
She could have been like, well, you can wear whatever you like.
Yeah, Sarah was in there, wasn't she? Okay, so...
And everyone's like, oh, I don't want to ask Carla. Everyone... I was going to talk about it in front of you.
Everyone at the end of Wednesday's episode is very exasperated because they're waiting for this bonus, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you tell Dirk was speechless. He was sitting there next to Beth, just mouth open,
his little sad face, like, no money for Dirk.
So Friday, we have Uncle Ronnie in this story as well, doesn't it? This is the first time in how long since he's been in it, honestly. So Michael's telling Uncle Ronnie about what happened, and Ronnie's like, look, don't give up. Michael says, I know, I'm gonna put on a presentation, I'm going to make this great PowerPoint to try and persuade the Americans that they shouldn't give up on us. So Michael gets some more sound business advice from Stephen later. Oh, that reminds me of the thing on Wednesday's episode where the reason that Michael gets to look at Stephen's computer is he's shadowing him for the day or something, isn't he? And there was this scene where he's like mirroring him and standing there with his hands on his chin looking all, pensive and business-like anyway. So Stephen tells Michael in this episode, if you're presenting to people, don't sound desperate. But he doesn't realise that what Michael is doing is getting this advice, so he knows how to play it when he emails Owen and Angelique later. And so he sends them off an email, then later on in the episode gets a phone call from very confused sounding Owen or Angelique or whichever one it was. And they tell him, well, we're not the ones that pulled out. It was him. And so Michael then has to confront Stephen and say, why did you lie to me earlier? Why did you say that they pulled out? And Stephen says, look, to be honest, I cancelled the deal with them because I got a better offer from Rufus, which isn't completely lies.
It made total sense to me that.
Yeah, that made sense to me. And Rufus's better offer was, I won't tell everybody that you're drugging Carla, which is, that's pretty much the best offer that he could get right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be very happy with this deal, Stephen tells Michael, and I'm going to seal it really soon as well. So just keep stum until then. So Michael meets up with Ronnie later and tells him what happened. Ronnie says, right, well, what you need to do then is go back to the American company, Owen and Angelique, and get them to get a better deal, to give you a better deal. And they're like gonna, be bidding war for Nipper Snapper.
What the hell?
Just so funny. So back at the factory later, Michael tells Stephen that he has been on the phone to them and they've made a counter offer, and he kind of hands Stephen his phone, doesn't he? And Stephen's like, oh, that is a better offer than Rufus is giving me. And he's like, oh, what do I do now?
And Michael's like, finger guns. I did a good job. Bye, boss.
He goes, doesn't he? And Stephen's just like,
I thought I was a businessman.
Why did I come back to Weatherfield?
I'm going.
Just when I think I'm on top. Thanks, Michael.
I'm fed up with these people.
So the final scene in this story this week was Stephen and Rufus meeting up at the bistro, and Rufus is and he's telling Rufus, look, I can't pull out of this other deal. They're offering me a whole lot more than you are.
This doesn't make even any sense. Like, we can't not take this deal up because.
Well, if he can't pull out because Michael would be like, why would you pull out of that? Why would you stick with Rufus?
It seems as though Michael's involved himself to this extent that he would have worked out that the deal that they've got is completely different.
Yeah.
And not as good.
Michael's just all full of excitement with the fact that this is kind of his little baby, isn't it? And he wants the most from it. He's like, he's not going to be able to, he's not going to give up on this. So anyway, Stephen's offer to Rufus is, how about we carry on with Owen and Angelique's deal, but you get 10% of the profits there for doing absolutely nothing. I know, I thought that was smart of Stephen. And Rufus is like, oh, I'm interested in this, but actually I want 25%.
Hang on, do it properly.
I'm interested in this deal, Stephen, but actually, I'm not having 10%. I want 25%. I want one whole quarter of the Nipper Snapper proceeds. Thank you very much.
Calm down,
and
Zippy.
Stephen's like, it was a bit zippy-ish, that, wasn't it? Stephen's like, hey, how about 15? No, 25.
And he's like,
20. No, 25.
You can take that much. I can't give it to you. And eventually he's like, yeah, fine.
I know, he's got no choice, has he? He has to shake on it in the end of giving Rufus 25% of this. That was really clever. I did enjoy that. And then...
But it just goes to show how Stephen is an awful businessman, because why did he go in at 10? He should have gone in at like 2.
Yeah.
And then he might have negotiated up to 10.
To be honest, Rufus could have negotiated higher. He has got Stephen by the short candies, hasn't he? Really? So he could ask for bloody 100% of it.
No.
He could have tried.
Well, no, because then he needs to give something to the
then negotiated down. He could have ended up at 75%. Anyway, the great bit at the end of the episode, which is I'm guessing a little tease into next week, is Rufus says, anyway, what's the way he segues into it?
I can't remember.
Oh yeah, while I'm here at the bistro, I need to buy some wine for my new house. Have a look at my new house that I'm renting. Here it is, and here's the address. And Stephen's like, now I know where you live.
No, hang on. Rufus is like, this house is really handy because it's got
a swimming pool, and a really long driveway.
Now he's turning to
who am I being?
Flanagan.
Oh yeah. We might hear from her later as well.
I've got a swimming pool. I've got a really long driveway. I've got really fancy knives. I've got a whole room of hole punchers. I've got a massive bin. I've got a shooting range.
Stephen's like dribbling at this point.
I've got some dodgy salmon I'm leaving out on the side overnight, which I might eat for breakfast.
Oh, Rufus. You have just signed your own death warrant here. Stephen's going to be round that house next week, I'm thinking.
But do you think he's going to get some nice leather gloves? in tribute.
He could do, couldn't he?
Maybe he could be like a greatest hits kind of villain.
Greatest
Just
hits.
an amalgamation of all the previous villains before him. So he puts on gloves at one point. Another point he hits Gary Windass with a 2x4.
And then he jumps off a hospital roof and survives. Gets hit by a tram.
Buries another woman under the factory.
Yeah. I mean, do you think this is where it's going to go?
I think he's going to murder Rufus.
I thought that
I'll help him.
I wondered whether after he chickened out of it last week with the hole punch, whether he was going to not do it anymore. But with this little tease at the end of this, it's like he's going around his house, isn't he? He's gonna
like,
Rufus is going to be floating face down in that swimming pool next week.
To your great success, Rufus. Have this cup.
I was wondering at one point before this during the episode whether Michael would even be in danger of Stephen, because Stephen's having to be tread very carefully because of things. Yeah, Michael.
No, you can't get rid of him. He's the genius behind Nippersnapper. Nobody can come up with these great designs.
Because once Michael knows things that Stephen really wishes he didn't, and I'm thinking, but I don't think so. I don't think, sad as it is to say, I don't think people would be too sad if Michael was killed.
Oh,
I mean, they're not going to be sad if Rufus is killed.
No, honestly, I think it would be like Luke again, where I couldn't.
Michael isn't at the moment as beloved as Luke was,
No,
but
Luke
then
wasn't
Luke was
beloved.
no, he wasn't particularly beloved. But I think if they want to kill someone off,
Yes.
Corica are often quite good at making them quite beloved in the week or two before they're killed
I
off.
think
So
when
they could
Luke
do that
died,
with Michael.
I didn't realise until he died that actually I thought I was really sad because of how much of a decent guy he was. But with me, actually, I really, really like Michael.
I do like Michael. I think
he's
that
not a Luke to me. But I think a lot of people
just before he died was, he
sort of
was the hero
bland.
because he'd found out about Pat, hadn't he?
I know, but up until that
like,
point, he was a sort of a fairly bland, good-looking.
Yeah, he was.
Man. Right.
Anyway, we'll see where that. I'm really hoping it's next week. I'm really hoping so. Right, Dimbo Italiano, Gemma. Brian Packham. What's been going on there this week for our light relief?
Okay, right. So on Wednesday, Mary invites Brian round for board games, and he then gets a text where he's had his DNA results back, and he only cares about what his heritage is, and he's thrilled to find out that he is 8% Italian.
Does this come from what he was saying a few weeks ago with his Mexican? Do you remember when he had a sombrero the other week and was like, "Oh yeah, I got Mexican heritage" or something? It felt like it came out of nowhere, but hopefully it goes back to nowhere soon.
I'm kind of annoyed with Corey that they've wasted this DNA storyline on a silly throwaway thing, because the DNA results have got such a potential. How many times have you read a story on Reddit where they're like, "Oh, I bought all my family DNA tests for Christmas and I thought it would be great fun. Now it turns out that my dad isn't the dad of any of my mum's kids and the whole family is split up into factions."
Oh, I'd quite like to see a DNA test story where it turns out that Jenny Connor is actually related to Alma Baldwin. Just for a bit of fourth wall breaking then.
Distant cousins, yeah. Right, so he's like thrilled, and Mary's like, "I think you're reading a bit too much in it, because I've read here it also says you're Scottish and you're more Scottish than you're Italian, like by 3 times the amount." And he doesn't care. He's going on about Spag Bowl. He's going on about the playing card games. We didn't really follow it.
It's basically he goes from 0 to million in that space of the episode and is suddenly obsessed with all things Italian, isn't he?
I'm going to say, if he wants me to believe that he's an authentic Italian, he would not ever eat an English person's spag bowl or lasagna.
Or does he say that? I can't remember what he said about it. Literally, I was just switched off at this.
Well, they don't have spaghetti bolognese in Italy.
No, I know. Well, he makes a point about it's like giving Dev a chicken tikka or something. I don't remember.
And also, I can't believe that he was eating garlic bread made with bits of baguette chopped up.
Was he?
Because that's not very authentic, is it? Well, from what I understand about the Italians, it's like, if you live in a village, like, away from someone else, and you, like, use ground pepper instead of whole peppercorns in your stew, they think you're a
infidel.
Yeah, and they want to burn you at the stake. So I don't think that a real Italian would like English anything.
Garlic. No.
Right, so on Friday...
Jar of Dolmio.
Oh my god. On Friday, Brian's been blasting out Pavarotti from the cabin. Rita's having a senior moment. She doesn't know what opera is. And he talks to Mary about he's trying to hunt for relatives online. And then it turns out that he's got a catch. Somebody wants a DNA sample from him so they can see how they're related. And then he's sitting in the cafe with Mary and he's like, oh, this coffee, you should have some proper Italian coffee. And Roy's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Have a taste test. So they do a coffee taste test. He gets it right, but no, he doesn't. Mary tricked him because she wanted him to feel good about himself and she feels guilty about the time about the theatre review.
If anyone's listening to this and hasn't seen the episode, you're probably not following this, but I think I'm going to say it doesn't matter.
No. Then Royce invites everyone to have lasagna, and then everyone says, "Are you paying?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm thinking, I've never been to someone else's house where I've had to pay for everyone else to eat the food that they made.
They was eating it in the cafe, though.
They were eating it in the cafe, so there you go.
I liked their table decorations.
I thought
that's
were really
my compliment of this story this week.
Nice. The tricolour.
Yeah.
What do they call it in Italy? Because that's French, isn't it?
I've got no idea.
Tricola.
Servietto.
Sorry, I deflated then. Rita's like, you're getting a bit out of hand. You're a maniac. Mary, you are...
You weren't paying attention.
No, she's like, Mary, you confess and tell him that you lied. And she's like, oh, I didn't want to upset you. And then he's like, oh, I feel embarrassed and I'm leaving.
So basically, Mary lies to Brian about his coffee testing skills because she feels bad about the whole theatre review thing the other week. But when she confesses that she was lying, Brian gets embarrassed and then storms off. So it's all part of the are Mary and Brian going to get together sort of storyline. I mean,
my
prediction, they probably will.
Turns out Mary is 25% Italian and she's actually related to him, and so they can't be boyfriend and girlfriend. They're both come from the same village in the north of Italy.
I'm somewhat intrigued about Brian's family tree because the Packham line.
I don't care.
The Packham line is, one person at the moment, isn't it? We don't know of any other Packhams there.
No, that's true.
Whereas so many other characters we know of, siblings or parents or cousins or whatever, and there's, as far as I know, nothing from him. They could. They should have like a special guest star coming in to play somebody else from the Packham family.
Yeah.
Like who's another famous buffoonish, like. Get Johnny Vegas
Miranda.
in or something. Oh gosh, yeah, get Miranda in to play him.
Everyone loves Miranda, but we don't think she's that funny.
Okay. Hey Gemma.
No. This is another horrible.
More tragedy going on here for Paul. Although at least on the bright side, there was only about 5 or 6 scenes for it the whole week. Basically, Paul's in denial about his hand being a problem and the money being a problem, and Dee Dee's getting a bit worried for him. So, and Billy doesn't know about it. No,
this week was Paul confessing to Billy that he has got this debt problem that he can't solve because the money's not coming in.
That's right. Yeah, the end of Monday's episode, it was Paul telling Billy, "Oh yeah, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt,"
and Billy's like, "No, we're up to our eyeballs in debt." I'm like, yes, it's about time you put... I mean, for goodness sake, Billy is supposed to be... I mean, I know I keep using this to, get annoyed at people because everyone should be a good person, but Billy specifically follows a religion whereby you're supposed to be nice to people, especially probably if you're going out with them, although I don't really know whether... God's cool about the whole gay thing. We're still the jury's out on that, apparently, according to some people.
Yeah, according to some people. Well, God helps those who help themselves, I think, is Billy's attitude towards this. And he said, Billy, get yourself out of this financial problem you're in.
You need to put more money in the collection plate and then I'll help you.
Well, Paul gets his own little guardian angel in the form of Dee Dee on Wednesday, who offers him a job sorting out her paperwork at the office.
God.
Well, Adam's paperwork. And then, we have been to the set. of the lawyer's office, and somebody needs to do that. Somebody's been...
Well, we've also been to the set of the lawyer's office, and the idea that 4 people could work there at once is quite hilarious.
I want Paul to be sorting through the paperwork there and say, hang on a minute, there's a script here from Coronation Street from 1998.
Do you guys know what that is?
What's this doing here?
Do you know, have you heard of sunliners? Because all this stuff is
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? There's a load of sunliners
They
stuff
do
there.
recycle all the paperwork. Although
It's fascinating going through some of the sets and just any bit of... If a character is holding a bit of paper, it's quite likely that it's going to be from years ago.
But I want to just point out that whatever it was that Paul had in his hand by the end of Wednesday,
well, it didn't stay in his hand,
they wouldn't be able to recycle that because he screws it up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he ends up dropping it, doesn't he?
Well, it wasn't that he dropped it. That wasn't the problem. It's
that he drops it and then he picks it back up. He
picks it up like it's a wad of tissue.
Yeah. I thought that Adam's attitude towards Paul working there was quite interesting because he's just like, his family are a bunch of scallies.
Well, he's like, do you know if he's committed crimes? He probably has.
Well, he has been in prison, to be fair, hasn't he?
I liked the fact that Adam
I know he didn't do it, but...
This is, again, is Coronation Street turning a corner where they're going to be happier to let characters just be arseholes out of nowhere? Because really, that was out of line for Adam to be like, he's a chav.
It was a bit, but I'm glad it's Adam because I'm not a massive Adam fan.
There are plenty of people who would say that.
Yeah, there really, really are.
They really are.
Especially if he's a lawyer, he's got a swanky flat. Are they in Red Bank?
I don't know, but
I think they are. So
if he's got his client, he's trying to get bigger clients. Imagine inviting a client back to the place, and then you've got Paul on the floor screwing up bits of paper.
Yeah, I know.
Because he can't read them.
It was just kind of ticking along that story this week, wasn't it?
How much?
Paul's going to get his diagnosis soon.
Well, it feels like Dee Dee's got like a bottomless well of benevolence and money.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she?
She's like hiring. She hired
she is a lawyer.
She hired Paul. I know, but
she's offering to pay the rent.
She's offering to pay his wages as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a bit like what happened when we did the Eve Sykes character profile? When Fred offered to pay her wages when she was working at the Rovers.
Yeah, similar.
I know
these Bailey kids, they're rolling in it, aren't they? Apart from Michael, that James is a rich footballer, Dee Dee's a rich lawyer. No wonder Michael wants to try and be the next, Del Boy millionaire.
It also is quite sad for Michael because both of his brother and sister have like moved out of the house and he's still there. And literally, his sister moved into the house and she's like, "Let me demonstrate to you what you do. Here I am in the house. I found somewhere else to go. I'm off. This is what you do when you're an adult. You rent somewhere else. You don't live in your house."
That might be quite interesting to see them explore Michael's feeling that he is the
inadequate Bailey.
Yeah, he is. He's the inadequate Bailey child, isn't he?
I want, aside from that, I want Paul to bugger off forever. I don't know. And I want Michael and Dee Dee to live together because I think that would be quite cute.
Yeah.
I know it's not really developing Michael as an independent person from the Bailey family if he moves in with his sister, but I think that would be really nice, just to reinforce that sibling relationship.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We haven't really got a lot of Dee Dee and Michael together because obviously she's quite a new character, but they both seem like really nice, good fun, don't they? Both of those characters seem like I could actually be friends with them. They seem really nice.
We haven't got a huge idea about what their relationship is, and you would be forgiven for forgetting that they are brother and sister, wouldn't you? I'd quite like to see more about how much they get on. Okay, we got the Marco storyline, Gemma, at the end, just a little bit today.
Is it me?
It is you. Yeah, that was me doing that last one, believe it or
Right,
not.
Marco seems like he's getting obsessed with Beth because he's waiting for her outside the factory and he sees that Kirk's there and he sort of waits for Kirk to leave and he jumps out at her and he's like, "Oh, I need to reorganise the school reunion. You got to help me." So Beth tells Glenda about this and Glenda's like, "Watch out, watch your back. This might be a development you don't want. You might live to regret this." So Beth flies to get out of work and meets Marco in the Chariot Square Hotel and he's like, "Yeah, let's get some wine." And she's like, "Oh, we want to talk about this reunion." She's like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Let's just talk about old times." And they get tiddly and giggly. And then
she realises that she's getting in a bit too deep with this, doesn't she?
Well, she leaves Marco and goes to the pub to see Kirk and tells him that she loves him. And then at the bar, she tells Glenda that she enjoyed the flattery from Marco, but she loves Kirk, and so she's going to text Marco and tell him that she's not going to see him anymore.
Yeah.
And I presume, judging from Coronation Street and where it's going at the moment with his stories, next week Marco will start stalking her until eventually he throws acid on Kirk.
I mean, this could be the end of the story, couldn't it? And it's just a little side story of the near temptation of Beth.
It feels like Marco's not going to let go so easily, and if he does, then it feels a bit like an empty.
But usually, Beth and Kirk storylines are the minorest of minor stories, so it could be it, and it could literally be a little filler. They mention again about Beth says, "Oh, I'm married or as good as," so maybe it's not over because the ultimate end of this story is for them to get married again.
I know, but so the last 2 years of Corrie feels like they actually listened to us when we kept complaining about all these characters that say they're married and they're not.
Yeah.
And they went, "Oh, we got some loose ends to tie up. Let's marry off Gemma and Chesney. Let's marry off Tyrone and Fizz. Let's marry off Beth and Kirk."
Yeah.
I can't remember if Tim's still married to that lady or if she married.
No. Tim's married to Sally.
I know, it's a joke. There shouldn't be so many people whose marital status is so confusing.
I know. Well, hopefully, I do want Daniel.
Toya.
Yeah, definitely want that. I do want Daniel and Daisy to get
married
and again, as well.
Are they going to turn into another one of these couples where it's like, oh, I thought they got married. Oh yeah, they didn't, did they?
No, I think that Daniel is going to be
pushing
pushing for them to quickly get married again, but I get a feeling that Daisy's going to be a bit hesitant.
Do you think my prediction about them having a double wedding with Chesney and Gemma might come true now?
Oh yeah, because that is still coming.
Well, they're still going to get married at some point. And
are they due to be married in May?
Paul's put the deposit down.
Yeah, that's true. So that was a long street talk, wasn't it?
That was probably our longest street talk ever.
It could well have been. But, there's a big episode, 2 big stories.
This is too long an episode, I'm sorry.
No, people like it. Don't apologise. I'm not apologising. People think it's great. I hope. Do you have a character of the week?
Oh. See,
I'd like it to say it's Daisy, but I don't think it is.
It really feels like I've watched 2 weeks worth of Coronation Street. Because I feel, I'm not really joking, because I feel like there was a week where we had the consent story and a week where we had the acid story, but it was all 1 week. Yeah, 2 major stories packed into there. I don't think that Daisy can be my character of the week. As much as I love her, it wasn't really about her once the attack had happened. Is Ryan character of the week because he, bravely jumped in the path of the acid and I'm going to give it to Daisy because
I just said we can't have Daisy.
No, you said you can't. Yeah. You're waffling, so I'm going to interject with my opinion.
Okay.
That it's Daisy because we got to see her in a lovely dress. She was beautiful. She had a little premonition. She helped Ryan, and she also brought Justin to justice.
That scene was great. Actually, I forgot about that.
She rescued herself this week.
Yeah. Can I have Michelle as my character of the week for
not
turning up?
Not coming back.
Who should I go with? Oh, Amy was good. Abby. I think I'm gonna go obvious and go Ryan this week.
Okay.
I think he's cracking, and it's been so long that I've been saying we need a decent story for Ryan, and not only did he get a big story, but there's been universal praise for Ryan Prescott's performance as well, and I really felt for him when he was in bed and just kind of making jokes and things, but really, trying to be putting a brave face on it in that situation must be really hard to do.
It's also an indication of how great Ryan Prescott is as an actor that he played that perfectly. It really felt real.
Both Ryan Prescott and Charlie Jordan have shown this week, and Charlie in more recent weeks, that these 2 characters that came in as comedic characters, didn't they?
Well, they came in as kind of like bimbos.
Yeah, they both were. This week has shown that they have got brilliant range.
They've got a lot of depth.
They're super. Score.
But hang on, I just want to also say, I know that we've complained and we said that these are quite dark and Corrie's dark and these are very hard issue storylines. But I wish they weren't happening at the same time as my only criticism. But I definitely appreciate most of these stories are like these dark stories are really fascinating, and they're very thought provoking and really interesting to watch. And I'm glad that they're doing them, but I just wish not all at once. So score I'm going to give this is 4 superficial space cadets.
What am I going to score it? I couldn't think of very many things of options to score out of this week, but I, in the spirit of Brian Packham, I'm going to be giving this quattro formaggio out of 5.
Well done. He'd be so proud of you.
Thanks.
He'd wonder how you could have mustered such Italian essence, considering I'm sure your DNA is hardly Italian at all.
I don't look at my skin tone, Gemma. I mean, I'm not.
My name's Italian, so I think I'm more Italian than you